It's Friday, January 10th, 2025. Start off as we typically do by me telling you very simply that if you'd like to support our show, then all you have to do is go to supportourshow.com, and the variety of support options shall be made available to you on one page. You know what I gotta get that sound they do in movies with the like somebody running their hands across the bells or like a harp where it's like I'm gonna make a note.
Or like a cowboy tune.
No. You know it's okay. You know how? No, yeah, no. It's not with the flashback thing. It's like the magic reveal sound. It's like yeah. But either it's usually a harp or it's like hand bells, whatever those bells are that you run your hands across. I don't know if that's the term.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Let me make a note here. Get magical reveal sound. See, the nice part is I know by my own notes what I actually.
I do that. I create code for myself of like.
I forgot. I updated my phone's theme for January, so I wasn't familiar with where everything was. Okay, here it is. I change everything.
I know you do. I just laugh because I remembered.
The tricky bit is to get a new color every time. So I've gone with kind of bright pinkish magenta, sort of. It's not bad. It's not the color I normally go with.
You're not allowed to repeat colors?
Oh, no. That's verboten for me.
Interesting.
No, I can't repeat colors.
Really?
What I actually did was...
There aren't colors that correspond to months?
Well, there are. The problem is I have thematic colors that I automatically already have.
God.
So, for example, October is orange.
I'm just going to take a little sidestep here. I just want to give you a compliment of sorts.
Yeah.
I sometimes wish that we had that machine from the Cell.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yes.
Yeah, because I would totally love to go for a walk in your head.
Oh, yeah. No, I think it would be fun for some people. Yeah. Here, I'll show you. So that I'm sending you.
Okay.
Choose one. So that's the. I don't know how to screenshot the. Can I screenshot the lock? Oh my God, I got so much crap on my lock screen.
Your lock screen? No, I don't think you can.
Oh, I can't. No, I can. Yes, I can.
Weird. Okay.
Oh, on Android, it's just you have to know.
Oh, you're on an Android. Never mind. Yeah.
I think I'm pretty sure you can actually do it. You probably just have to.
Let me see if I can. Hold on.
Yeah. I bet you can. I would think.
Yes, you can.
It just
you can do it on the iPhone as well. Yeah.
It's pretty common now.
I guess I've just never had a reason to screen cap my.
No, most people don't. Yeah. So, I sent them. I don't know how fast they'll come through because, text messaging is. Yes. I sent them text wise. I'm not going to drag them into it. Even though, because Android doesn't airdrop.
So we'll get there eventually. Although, let me tell you, you got video from me in London in speeds I have never seen before.
You know what my suspicion with that is?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I think that is. Now, I don't know this. So
because I was traveling recently, and when I was in London, I was texting you very large videos, especially for texting. Right. And you got them so quickly.
Now, I know we have people who listen who are very well versed in the technical aspects of these things, far more than even I am.
Okay.
I shouldn't say even. That are very versed in technology, like security, testers, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
In Europe, they have a harsher demand on technology companies as far as interoperability, particularly Apple. They're going to force to open up the App Store relatively soon in a way that nobody else is. And my thinking is that they are making the protocols work differently there so that when you send them, they are unencumbered by some of the crap that Apple does in the States. That's my suspicion.
Interesting.
Because of how
because you got it fast.
Militant Europe is.
We were going back and forth in real time for us, which was
However,
interesting.
At the end of last year, Apple did adopt RCS, which is a messaging protocol that Android's been trying to get them to use for a while as well. So it could be a combination of things.
Yeah.
So, but yes, they did come through because you've sent me stuff, or I've sent you stuff, and it doesn't come through till midnight.
Oh, and
hours. Did you get the 2 images I just sent you? Did they come through?
No, they haven't come through yet. No, I won't get them. I won't get them till hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
but yeah, we've been busy because you were out here for a while. Oh. We actually went to Otherworld together, which was a hilarious and funny experience.
It was, yeah.
And
I had many pictures.
Oh, you took a lot of pictures. I took a lot of pictures too.
I did.
I took a picture of you, by the way, that I think for me is the iconic Joe photo for me.
Which one?
It's you in the video game room. We're going to talk about these.
Oh, the one where I'm looking up like a child.
And you're looking up like with a child.
Oh, my wife likes that one too.
Your wife likes that one?
She likes that one too.
That is so. And you're backlit. You're backlit by the red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The color I like.
Yeah, and that is so iconically you. If you were in shorts and a t-shirt, it'd be perfect.
Yeah, it's about the only thing that would be different is that I'm wearing a jacket and long pants.
Yeah, but I tell you, that photo is like so perfectly you. That's hilarious. But yes, I've also been away for a bit. I did some traveling, which is one of the things I actually want to talk about. Yeah. Not my whole travel thing, because we're not doing a travel log here. But I wanted to mention a place, much like Otherworld, that really did it for me. I mean, I'm not a big fan of cities. You know that. I don't like to spend time in Manhattan. I know that there are resources there, but I don't like to be in cities. I don't like being around people. And let me tell you, if I told you about some of the crowds that I actually navigated, you'd be very proud of me that I managed. But I did get to a point in the National Gallery where we had already hit 2 different things that day, and it was like there were so many people. And I turned to my wife and I was like, I'm done. I was like, I'm just done. Even in the Louvre, we went to the Louvre in December, and in the Louvre there are parts of the Louvre that are just fucking empty because it's such a big museum, and Paris is very slow in December. London is not slow in December. That place is fucking kicking, and there was nowhere I went in any of these places that wasn't packed with people. So I really hit my max for to the point of which that at least 10 to 15 times a day I was smashing through like just crowds, and I'm wide too, so like I was basically the battering ram for my family, but like people were like pushing through like it was a choke point in a battle or something like that. It's crazy. But either way, I enjoyed Paris. There's a lot there. You'd fucking love it. There's a lot of weird shit to see. I think I told you in my text that like I love British museums because they provide you so much information, and they feel so much more involved than a lot of the American museums I've gone to. I feel like American museums, a lot of them of late, like the Museum of Natural History, I feel like they've dumbed down some of their things because they're going for spectacle, because they're trying to keep numbers up. Whereas I feel like a lot of British museums don't seem to give a shit. So they're just like, hey, we're just going to make this as nerdy and brainy as we feel like it. And I feel like I spent 2 to 3 hours in some of these museums and didn't even scratch the surface of the amount of information that they've got. And I got to see, was it Flaming June? You know the painting Flaming June?
I do. Yeah.
I do. I saw that painting something like 15 years ago. So like I went, my wife and I went on a late honeymoon, which was like a couple years. Was it a honeymoon? What was that? Yeah, it was a honeymoon. It was a late honeymoon. We went to Vienna, and when we were there, I was Klimt hunting for paintings, And they just happened to have Flaming June there on like a special show. It was being rotated through, and I fell in love with that painting because it's fucking beautiful. If you ever never seen it, you should. I forgot the name of the artist now, but Flaming June. It's a woman. She's kind of sitting across like a
Frederick
bed.
Layton.
Layton, that's who it is. Yeah, my wife loves Layton and Waterhouse, so she was very happy about that.
Beautiful color work, no doubt about it.
And the thing, the color work on it is so gorgeous, and when you see it in person, it just blows your eyes out of your head. It just happened to be in London. We didn't even know it was there, and we were. I mean, well, Jesus. And the thing is,
because I don't think it's normally in London. I think
no, it's not. And my brain is in such a
yeah.
blur that I can't even. Because I mean, I'm still pretty fucking jet lagged. I can't even tell you which museum we were in when we saw it because. Yes, it's the Courtard. The Courtard. Jesus Christ, I'm totally gonna write that. I there's some names that I would start saying them. My wife would be like, "That is completely wrong." Is it the Courtauld? I think it's called the Courtauld Gallery, which we were gonna skip, and then we read somewhere that it was basically probably one of the best little galleries that you could go to. Is it the Courtauld? It may have been the Courtauld. No, it wasn't. It was a different museum. Where the fuck was this? You know, usually your info on your map tells you where the fuck you were because they're goddamn tracking you. Oh well, fuck you. It was in a museum there. I don't have the information right now. Either way, it was there and we got to see it, and it was a surprise that we saw it because we haven't seen it since our honeymoon. So it was, and the thing was, I was explaining to my kids because this is like their first big travel kind of thing. Like we've traveled with them before, but we've never done like culture travel. This is new for them, and this is kind of old work for me because I love culture travel. I love just going everywhere and seeing all the museums and everything. I was trying to explain to my kids, I was like, there's some paintings that you're going to see that you may never see again in your life, that you'll go to some place and it's such a trial to get there, or it's, you know, it's expensive, or it's a matter of fact thing that you don't realize that you're having these moments that are singular. And when you're younger, I think that it's very matter of fact, you know. But then as you get older, you start to look back and you go, "Oh shit, you know what? I don't know if I'm ever going to see that painting again." So the idea that this painting and I have crossed paths twice in my life, totally by accident, and that it is now a favorite of mine after the first time, it's such a gift. It's such a weird. You know, it's almost like, what are the odds of that? Of to just happen to walk into the path of this painting again. But I was trying to explain that to my kids, to be like, you know, you never know when you lay eyes on something, if you're ever going to lay eyes on that painting again. You know, and it's, you know, some paintings are like, well, I can always find a picture, but to actually look at a painting in person is stunning. There are things you see in person on the canvas that you will never see on a print. You just won't. Like a Van Gogh, printed out Van Gogh is never going to be the same thing as a like real one right there in front of you, where you can see the strokes all over it, and you know, you can almost see the intent of the artist in like the you know, how aggressively he seemed to like carve the paint across the canvas. So that was really awesome.
Yeah.
But the thing I want to talk about is I saw a show that they have in London called Frameless. And you've seen there's 2 videos on Twitter. You've seen those, right?
Yeah, because you told me about it.
Yeah. And I have a bunch of videos I haven't sent you because I didn't know if you'd get them.
I don't think we mentioned it on the show. I think you mentioned it to me when we were playing.
Oh yeah, that we were going to see this thing.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I saw a show when I was in Paris that was like. It was mostly Van Gogh, and it was like a big room, and they had lots of projectors, and it was a very cool show. Well, this is kind of like a continuation of that. This is a different group, and essentially what they've got 4 rooms, and each room is slightly different. It has something like a 25-minute or so show, and they vary through sometimes anywhere from like 10 to 15 paintings, right? And there's a theme to each room. And it's cool, too, because they're in the basement of a building, so you basically go down this... I do love how deep London goes. Where like sometimes, like, I was telling Joe before the show that like my calves were pretty much revolting by the end of the show, at the end of the trip, because I'd walked so much, And at one point, we were trying to go to the Maritime Museum, and we were in this subway, and we were so deep that the sign actually said 100 and something steps to the top of this particular stairwell. And I was like, holy shit! I was like, we are fucking underground. I do love that. It's so weird. So yeah, they have these 4 rooms, and each room has a theme. So like one room, they have this way of doing it where the paintings, they all collapse into almost like piles of leaves, and the leaves and the dots are all interactive on the floor. So like you kick them around, and it's almost like leaves in the breeze in the fall. And then eventually the leaves all kind of drift toward the walls, and they kind of crawl up the wall and make up the next painting. It's very cool. Another room is all mirrored, so wherever you look, you're kind of always looking at this collision of like color. And what they do is they take pieces of paintings and they kind of animate parts of them and move them around, and they make this kind of very 360 experience before actually finally having the painting just happen in front of you, right? It's very cool the way they add motion. Another room turns paintings into sort of interactive moving experiences. So when you're in the room, I think I posted the storm. There's a painting of a boat out in a storm, and what they did was they turned the whole room into a storm. So you have projectors. I mean, the room is just a white room, but they have all these projectors everywhere, and the whole room is just storming, and there's lightning, and it's just it's all around you, and makes you feel like you are in kind of the inspiration of the painting. It's never meant to look real. It is meant to look like the painting, but you are in a reality of the painting. There's another one that's I think it's a volcano above Pamplona. Pamplona is the one that got completely buried, right? Pompeii. There you go, Pompeii. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, jet lag. And so they made this giant volcano, and there's like fucking lava coming out of it, and it's a very sort of real experience, but it's all done up in the matter of the painting. So it's never real, but it's like this, you're accessing this reality of the painting. Very cool stuff. I enjoyed it so much. Like I said, I posted 2 videos on my Twitter, and I want to like send them. I've wanted to send them to people, but they're big videos. Like they did a Hokusai video where it's basically the lines suddenly start drawing themselves across the walls, and as the lines are drawing themselves, the colors are following. It's slowly fleshing out the image in like kind of real time across, and then suddenly you realize you're in the middle of the big wave. So cool. The 4th room was abstract paintings. And if this trip has done anything for me, it has reminded me that I'm not a fan of abstract paintings. However, I stand by the fact that art is interpretive, and you find whatever it is you want to find in art. So I will never say that abstract paintings shouldn't be. It's just not my flavor, right? Although the way they did this one room was unique, which is that rather than just have the walls being painted up, they crisscrossed the room with transparent panels that could be projected on. And as you're walking around the room, you're in this kind of labyrinth of panels, and all the panels have these abstract paintings being projected across them, except that the abstract paintings are now moving. And the motion adds something there that changes them. Like there's this one painting, I can't remember what painting it's called, but it's a series of lines with like circles and squares around it. And as a painting, I don't like it. But they motioned it almost like it was a clock. And so watching this thing slowly rotate with all these circles and squares and lines, and the whole thing has beautiful music. I mean, the sound design of this place is outstanding. I think the abstract room had the best music of all the rooms, which is kind of it's kind of sad because it was the room I liked the least, but the music was the best. And maybe it's because they realized that they needed to add some power to it. I don't know. That's my interpretation. But I ended up enjoying the abstract room because they added motion to abstract art, and I mean, I think the music was doing a lot of the heavy lifting, but because it wasn't just static, I liked it more, you know. But it was an outstanding experience. I would totally go. I would totally go back to this place, and I hope that they keep doing shows. Apparently, they did do a Klimt show at some point. I always miss those. But there was a Klimt in one of the rooms, and it was very quick, but they did a really good job. You know how Klimt loves his geometric shapes. They did this real thing where they had all these triangles and stuff across the room, and the triangles have eyes in them. But what they did was they added motion to the eyes, so the eyes kept looking around the room and blinking, which just added something very sort
interesting.
Of yeah, it just added something so new and weird. Yeah. So. Yeah. I gotta say, my wife took a bunch of pictures of me. She said I had this expression on my face like a child because I was like so mesmerized. It's kind of like I told you I love that picture of you at Otherworld with the fucking video game gun. It's kind of like that. I got this. I'm looking up and I just have this sense of wonder. I had a really good time there. So if you are in London, you definitely need to go to this show, Frameless. It's fantastic. Like I said, it's 4 rooms. Every room is 20 minutes. You can stay in there as long as you want, and then they have a cafe right there, which is actually quite good. They confused the shit out of us because we bought this little cake that looks like an abstract painting. I thought that was so cool, but we thought it was cake with chocolate like frosting around it. And when my daughter and I ate it, we discovered that it was a pound cake. It wasn't like cake. It was pound cake. And the frosting was like vanilla frosting, but they had dyed it that it was like almost tar black. So we were expecting like almost like tropical flavors with like chocolate frosting, and we just got fucking vanilla. It was the weirdest thing. I was very confused by that, which added to my amusement because they completely made me expect one thing and then gave me something else. So I had a good time at Frameless, and I wanted to mention it because shows like that need all the support they can get. But that is not the only thing. I actually have a few things to talk to you about. I actually had time to watch something, and I read a book I want to talk about. But I also wanted to mention, did you know that so what's the company that did Baldur's Gate 3? What's that? Lansing or
Larian.
You know Larian put Original Sin 3 on the iPad?
Yeah, I saw something about that. I mean, after Baldur's Gate 3, though, I don't know that I care to play because supposedly Baldur's Gate 3 fixed a lot of the problems. Oh,
I know that. But I am curious enough. I would not want to play it on the PlayStation because, like you said, Baldur's Gate 3 is a superior game.
Right.
But I am curious to try it as an iPad game because, I mean, I think iPad games, I give them a little more leeway. So I was actually contemplating trying it out, as like kind of something that you play when you're stuck someplace and you've got an iPad. You know what I mean? It's not a primary game, but as kind of like a little secondary game, like if you're stuck on a train or something like that. Right. And I wonder if it'll work at this point better as an iPad game than as a PlayStation game.
It's possible, sure.
My kids play a lot of games on their iPads I never would have played. They do like first-person games and shit like that. So
it very well could.
Like in my brain, I'm still playing like Tetris and like Candy Crush and shit like that, and they're playing first-person horror games. Yeah. So I wonder if it's an age thing. I mean, fucking you play Call of Duty on an iPad. Like, I don't even know how that works. Either way,
I don't know.
I wanted to mention it because,
like I said, it's neat. I think just though that I don't know that it would be. iPad games for me have to be so specific for me to even care. Honestly,
go on.
I would have to probably either connect a keyboard and mouse, or controller to it. I don't think I could play it on the iPad.
I was stuck on a plane for like 7.5 hours. I totally would have played Original Sin.
That's why I brought my little Game Boy retro handheld.
in the end, I didn't bring my iPad on this trip because I packed I technologically packed light. And that.
Oh, I did too. I had one bag with 3 things in it. That was it. I packed my iPad, a pair of good headphones, and my handheld. That was it.
I just got your screen pictures, by the way.
Ah, yeah, see?
Yeah, it's very swirly.
Well, yeah, so to go way back to that. So the problem is, because you were saying, well, I can't repeat colors.
Yeah.
So I have certain colors that are designated for either holidays or times of the year. So yellows and oranges are summer months because it's hot.
Yeah.
So I have to have that. And it can't be the same orange as October, which is Halloween. So that's a pure orange. So it almost has to be like a burnt umber and like variations therein for summer. And that's really 3 months, which is June, July, and August. Those 3 are increasingly orangish versions of yellow.
Yeah.
And I don't even like to repeat icons. So that's another problem.
Oh,
to get icon packs that line up with the colors correctly.
Yeah, you got some work.
I'm figuring it out now. But like that one, so I looked at January, and the January birthstone is garnet, which is red. But red for me is Valentine's, so that's February is red.
Yeah.
So that's because that's the Valentine month. So I can't use red in January. So I said, okay, well, I'm not going to use red. So why don't I use a variation on red that's unusual for me, and that's kind of that, whatever that color is that you can see in it. Yeah, well, the swirl's a trick too because, okay, so herein, I use dark mode on my phone.
Yeah.
So when the screen's locked, it can't be something that's really light because as you saw from the lock screen, it's in white.
Yeah.
So that can be dark. That's easy. But then I can't necessarily use a dark wallpaper or a too confusing one because I have to be able to make out the icons. Yeah. Some icons have an outline that's white or bright, so I can go dark. This one is not really so dark. These are, let's see, what are the colors? Yeah, see those dark purple or whatever outlines?
Yeah.
So I had to use something that would contrast a little. I don't even like the fact that I had to use the blue and whatever swirls because I'm varying and I'm starting to verge into blue, and that bothers me, so I'll probably replace that background. But I couldn't not have it match for now, or it would bother me.
I love how your art is at odds with your headspace and how they try to work around each other. Honestly, I love the swirls because that's basically what's going on in your head.
That's true.
It's your own neurology kind of spiraling around your creativity to create order.
Now, I don't know. Hold on. Let me look at that screenshot. I think it did show it. So, okay. So, do you notice that the bottom icon that has the number 4 on it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I have to change those colors as well because that notification bubble is customizable.
Oh,
so, I have to change those colors, and I have to make them distinct enough that you can see them. Also, my text messaging app has customizable. So, I have to customize everything. Because if anything doesn't match, it will bother me.
Yeah,
even the app icon is customizable, which is both great and terrible. Because since I have the control, I must enforce it.
No, I know what you mean. Because you can do something about it, then you need to do something about it.
Yes, then I have to do something. Whereas like the Android, like the time, I can't make it not white. So
a very good segue then for my book review.
Oh, good.
Because I read a book that actually horrified me. And did it in a way where I knew it was coming, but I was like, okay. So I read a book. Hold on, where is it? It is called Fireweather, a true story from a hotter world. And it is by John, how is it, Valent?
Valiant.
No, there's no I in the end.
Valiant. Or no, Violent.
It's Valent.
Violent?
It's V-A-I-L-L-A-N-T. Valent.
Yeah, wow.
All right, so this book, I never would have picked this book up in my ordinary day. I picked this book up because Outside Online ran an excerpt from it as an article, right? And I was absolutely jaw-dropped by the excerpt, which was about the Fort McMurray fire that happened up in Canada, right? Which is an example of a wildfire burning its way through a city in the northern Canada. And that made me want to read the book because I was like, holy shit, like this is a, especially since, I mean, I think I told you I drove by a wildfire here in New Jersey. I drove right by it. It was like an hour from my house. And that really disturbed me because I was like, holy shit, you hear about forest fires, but when you actually have one an hour from your house, you're like, okay, this is too close. This is officially too close. And I know you've been dealing with this shit for a lot longer, but
Sure.
Now, the parts of the book about the Fort McMurray fire are very fascinating because they get into how people have an expectation of reality, and so when things go really, really wrong, people almost don't have a almost like if it's never happened before, people don't even know to think that it could happen. You know what I mean? So this fire in Fort McMurray was so big and it was so powerful, and because this is the other part of the book, because the environment has gotten so hot and so dry, these forest fires are becoming superpowered. And so this fire jumped a river they never thought it would jump. And then once it hit the houses, they get into the fact that houses today are made from so many oil-based products, right? Like, the tar roofing and there's all this shit in your house that, is there for temperature regulation and but when a really hot fire shows up, your house is really just a tinderbox. And this fire was so hot that it was basically burning houses to the ground in about 2 to 4 minutes. And this thing was changing. It was changing the weather around it. Like they said that essentially for a couple of days there, it was 90 degrees in fall in northern Canada, in and around this area. And this fire is weird because it had a very low death rate, except it burned fucking most of the city to the ground. And it got to a point where there was no water. Water didn't work against fires of this size. So the firemen weren't even using water anymore. They were just trying to create fire breaks, and they were bulldozing houses. Like houses that hadn't burned yet. They were bulldozing them to try and starve the fire out before it'd get there. But like, it is such a disaster movie in reality to read this book. That part is not the frightening part. Amazingly, that part is actually the interesting part of the book, because it's a very harrowing story of people, I mean, and I'm sure that you've heard of these stories before, living out in California, but people leaving their houses at just the wrong time, not getting evacuation notices in time, barely getting away, losing everything sometimes, and then the other part of it is the mishandling of this fire, mainly because no one expected something of this magnitude. All of that is so fascinating. But then he gets into the weather science. Then he gets into global warming. And it becomes one of the most frightening books I have ever read, because he gets into the science of CO2 emissions and the greenhouse effect, and how oil companies have known about this shit 50 fucking years ago. I mean, it's actually weird, because there's stuff that I didn't even know we knew, and they knew it so much. Virtually the moment they started realizing that CO2 was a thing, they were like, hey, you know what? This gas can really retain heat. This is kind of dangerous. And even the oil companies early on were like, yeah, you know what? This stuff can be kind of dangerous. We should be careful with that. And this transition of a society from being profit-based to just kind of being like, we want to make a good product. You know what I mean? And now you're kind of like, well, we don't give a shit what happens to the environment as long as we make more money, right? And they talk about how the direction that we're going with these massive CO2 outputs and the way that we're fundamentally changing the environment, we are basically creating an extinction effect, because so there was an extinction effect where too much CO2 was created, and essentially what happened was it made everything superheated. There wasn't enough oxygen, and the animals eventually, like 90% of the life on Earth went extinct, and it died in heat, gasping for breath, which is terrible to think about, the human race dying in such a way. And there's been other versions too. There's been extinctions where there's been too much oxygen. Have you read about that? Where the plankton created like a super oxygen event, and it basically killed.
Because I think a lot of people are not. I don't think most people are aware of that. Too much oxygen is just as bad.
Oh yeah. Too much of anything will kill everything. Like you need this balance, and we are fucking up the balance.
I really don't think a lot of people don't know that we don't breathe pure oxygen.
Oh yeah,
I really
when you
don't.
explain to
I don't
people
think
that
it's
like
knowledge.
that what we breathe is there's like nitrogen in it and there's a mixture of other stuff in
It's a
there.
mix. It's a
Yeah,
mix.
when you breathe straight oxygen, it makes you loopy.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
If, I think did they point out in Fight Club that's why they want you to breathe oxygen if a flight's in
Oh,
trouble
because it makes you
docile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever breathed pure oxygen?
I don't think so.
I did an experiment.
Not that I'm aware of.
No, I did an experiment years ago with pure oxygen in a science class. Oh, it was a science class? Either way, we were experimenting on holding your breath and how when you basically you almost like hyperventilate to get all the excess CO2 out of your lungs, and then you take a deep breath of pure oxygen, and it like almost triples the amount of time or more that you can hold your breath. It's really crazy because
of course, because it oxygenates to your blood.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
And that's just like one deep breath. You're not breathing it. You just got, but that even that one deep breath makes you a bit weird. So either way, he gets.
Well, one of the things you see people do before they do a deep dive is several very long.
Breaths, you blow out all the CO2. Thing. Yeah. So so this book is so well written. I mean, and the thing is, the first half of me reading this book, this was my my insomnia book. So every now and then at night when I had trouble sleeping, I would read this book because it was very dry in the beginning, right? So I was like, whatever, I'll read this. It'll put me to sleep. And in the beginning, it's a bit dry. But then he starts talking about fire like it's a person, like it's an animal, like it has an agenda. And then, oh my God, things get rolling. And this book went from being my night reader to being like, I got to read this right now because this shit's fucking crazy. And it just gets crazier and crazier. And then he starts talking about other fire events around the world and fucking fire tornadoes and how they had to create a new classing because they had these super fires that were so big and it had such a high ambient temperature that you wouldn't be in the fire, but if you were standing close enough, it would fucking cook you like a death ray. And they had people just dropping dead near the fire. And then what's crazy is that there's video of a lot of this shit because cell phones come in, at one point. And so there's a lot of the stuff in this book that you can then run to your phone and look it up and see firsthand accounts of what the fuck happened and be even more frightened. But yes, the fire stuff is frightening as hell. The global warming stuff is really like the stuff that makes you lose sleep because he's talking about how there's a tipping point where the system will almost become self-perpetuating, where we might not be able to reverse it at that point because you've got so much CO2, so much heat buildup, and then you've got these forest fires that are, because it's so dry and it's so hot, they can now flourish for longer and harder, and they're getting up into the fucking atmosphere. They essentially have the power of like volcanoes. When a volcano goes off and they're like, oh, that shit's going to be in the atmosphere for the next decade, right? Or like Yellowstone is a super volcano that if that thing went off, shit would get weird for a long time. We're getting that from forest fires now because they're getting so big and so intense. And it really takes the whole global warming problem and parks it right on your front step and says, hey, this isn't an abstract problem. People are trying to turn it into an abstract problem, but this is a now problem. This is there's a thing in there where he's like, children born today, there's the possibility that if things keep going the way they are, they will never experience winter like you did as a child. And how I'm all about plastics. Plastics are playing a part of this because we have this kind of fast food cheap culture and the manufacture and the burning of these things. I mean, if you're wearing clothes or if you have furniture that is made up of plastic products that are made from petroleum, that shit goes up, man. I mean, we had a friend whose wife caught fire. You know this story, right?
Oh, you've told me. I don't think you've ever told on the show.
Yeah, we have a friend whose wife was wearing a polyester like nightshirt, and she was leaning over a candle in the bathroom, and her whole shirt went up. Whole shirt in front just went up, like a fucking Roman candle, and she ran out of the bathroom screaming. And our friend saw her, and he's really good under pressure, and he just body slammed her and rolled her up into her carpet. and put it out. Just completely put it out.
That's smart. I mean, what else? Do?
He's great under pressure. But
it was smart thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I would have just got like, I don't even know what I would have done. You never know what you're going to do in a situation like that. But he put out the fire. But the thing is, because it was this polyester, it just went up. And so many, I mean, you said it at one point when we were recording, like everything in this room is plastic. You're like, yeah, everything in this room is plastic. And if you get a hot enough fire, shit'll just burn. I mean, that was really scary in this book, where they said this forest fire got to a point where it was manufacturing such a high temperature around it that it would basically approach houses, and it would heat the houses up to such an extent that before they even caught fire, they would just start releasing gas, and as it approached them, they would just flash fire, and then in 4 minutes, these things would burn to the foundation.
There was a video. Oh man, I want to say it was I can't remember the Paradise, I think was the name of the fire here. And there was video, I remember when that happened, because that basically leveled the town.
Yeah, there's a great documentary.
Somebody took a video of their house, and it started like shooting off this gas because the fire was near it.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing
and then it just like blew up.
It's excellent to read this book and then look these things up, because there is so much video, and he talks about it too.
No, it isn't. You know what? I don't know that I would say that.
I would say that because, like you were saying, if there's an option, you need to do something about it.
You know what?
I feel like we need to do something about it. I was
going to say, if you're not in a place that frequently has fires and you're not concerned about it, go ahead. If you're concerned about it, maybe don't look that stuff up.
Fuck that.
Just look into.
I live in a place that now gets forest fires, and I want to know, because some of this stuff that I learned in this book, I was like, holy shit, I never would have thought that. I never would have understood how some of these things react. Places that are dangerous that you don't realize are dangerous, or effects that are dangerous.
As somebody who has this type of thing, I'm going to caution people. Instead of looking this stuff up and making yourself insane, I do often.
So you can't read this book.
No. What I would say is, if this is concerning to you, what you should do is look up how to prevent this stuff.
Oh,
do that first. Look up what you can do to mitigate these risks. Because otherwise, and I'll tell you why I'm saying this. The issue is, if you look up what can happen, you will be up all night worrying about the 80 things you have to do to stop it, as opposed to you get the steps, don't look at it, get the steps,
but here's the thing.
Taking the action.
What this guy's talking about is some of these fires get to a point where there are no steps. The only step is running. That's where we're getting to, where the weather is getting so bad that it's like.
But it's also, for me, that's going to be one of the things, is having a go bag.
Yeah, it's knowing that sometimes you got to go. Although I really feel bad, because there's a guy that there was a fire tornado out on your state.
I'm not arguing against having information. What I'm arguing against is, don't go look up the examples of this stuff, because you will get wrapped into a doom spiral.
This guy, he left his house because he was like, shit, the fire's coming. And this is like one of the instances of an actual fire tornado, which, by the way, I love the fact that they tried to label it a fire whirl. That was like the official name they wanted to give it. And all these people were like, I'm not calling it a fucking fire whirl. It's a fire tornado.
It's not what it is.
But this guy left his house and had all his primary belongings in his truck. And he left the house trying to get away, but he didn't realize that he was kind of in a weird pocket. He was actually in the forest fire, but in kind of a pocket of I guess sanity,
like eye of the hurricane type of stuff.
Type of shit, yeah. Except there was no eye; it was just a little pocket. And then the fire started to close in, and there was a car something like half a mile down the street that by the hurricane winds had literally picked up the car and wrapped it around a tree. And where this guy was, it was just quiet enough that it shattered his window. It tipped the car over, and then he was like, shit, what the hell am I going to do? And lucky for him, there were all these Caterpillar tractors, with the big rams, what do they call it? The big ram shovel in the front. And he ran. He ran over to it, realized that the whole cab of it was shattered out. So he climbed between the shovel scoop and the machine and kind of just tucked in there, and had like a bag behind him blocking all the fire embers that were trying to sandpaper his skin off. And he managed to survive. Like, he got burned, but he was okay. His car was burned to nothing, right? That was like 30, 40 feet from him. His truck burned to nothing with all his belongings in it. And his house never got touched. How fucked up is that? And they said that's the problem with some of these things, is that you can never tell what's going to happen.
Well, tornadoes are the same thing.
Yeah.
The entire town wiped out. One house in the middle of it is fine.
It's just sitting there. Yeah. So
why?
The story of the Fort McMurray fire is very fascinating because it shows you he has so many different accounts, right? From like firemen and the fire chief, but then locals, radio people, from so many different people, and he gives you a lot of information about this town and the history of this town, to the point of which you're starting to go like, why do I need this information? But then when everything hits off, suddenly it all makes sense why you have to know all these people, why you have to understand what's going on, because it's almost like a horror movie. Like, he sets up the town and all the people in it, and then he basically sets off the monster, which is this fire. And it reads like a fucking horror novel. I mean, if I found out that a lot of that, if I was reading fiction, it would still be amazing, right? But what's even more scary is that the shit that happened and how nuts people are too. There's this point where essentially the town is empty now, and the fire department, the firemen are in all these little scattered groups. They've lost contact. There's the towers are down. They're not getting information. They're all working on their own plans. And a lot of these firemen are like, construction guys, oil guys, and they've got their own ideas going on, and they won't leave because they fucking live there. They won't give up, but they're basically just losing ground. And these people, some of them have been fighting this fire now for like 2 days, and they're raiding groceries and going in and getting whatever shelf-stable food they can because they don't have any food. They barely have any water at this point. So it's it just shows a complete breakdown of society and the degree to which people go to try and keep fighting. And it's kind of the best of humanity. It's the whole, even in the lieu of something that is like practically a cosmic entity, a cosmic destruction, right? This is an event of nature. It's like trying to fight a fucking hurricane, right? That's what they're doing. They're trying to fight a fire hurricane. And there's an odd kind of valiance in it against such insurmountable odds. But then you take that and you run it against all the fucking greenhouse effect information, and you're just like, oh my god! It's like, are we doomed as a species? And I was depressed when I finished this book. I was sad and I was depressed and I was a little sick. Do you ever finish reading something that like really changes your worldview and it actually gives you like
oh boy, dude, yeah.
And I did sit there and think to myself, man, are we fucked? Like, are we doomed? Is this the future that my kids are going into? Right? Because it's something that I don't have any control of. You know what I mean? But then I stop and I say, okay, you know what? At some point or another, the wrong thing is going to burn. At some point or another, somebody with money is going to get burned. And then they're going to go, oh shit, this is a problem. And that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that at some point, the moneyed class on this planet will go, oh wow, everything's burning. There's no place I can go to play golf. Okay, maybe we should do something about this. And that's a really, that's a weak hope. That the rich will suddenly become so uncomfortable and actually go, maybe we should fix the world, rather than be like, we'll just build bunkers underground, temperature controlled bunkers. I love that. I love when you get that effect where they're like, I'm just going to save myself. And you're like, dude, if there's no society, there's no anything for you. It is society and the people in it that make all the pretty things that you like. The paintings and the movies and the fine alcohol, and it is the culture, it is the people that make society. And I got a lot of that when I was in London. I was reading this book like crazy when I was over there. Like every night I was kind of burning through it, and I realized that it's like the culture is us. If one of these Fort McMurray fires hit London and somehow burned London to the ground, it would be a great loss to have lost all that culture. These things that are part of us as a society. But it's the people that make the society. And as long as you have people together doing things, life goes on. Culture goes on. Society goes on. And as much as I hate groups, I hate being in groups, that's life. And hopefully these groups can work together and we can find a solution. But right now it doesn't look great. And I'm hoping that we will come together at some point and fix it. But I also think the problem is that the problem is very abstract. It's abstract for a lot of people, especially when you're like, oh, it's going to get warmer? I don't mind that. I like the summer. And you're like, yes. But when winter is summer, summer becomes hell. I mean, I'm waiting for Florida to be underwater. I think when Florida is underwater, somebody will do something, don't you think? Or what will happen is people will just be used to the fact that Florida was always underwater. We don't need to do anything.
Yeah, possibly.
Right? But it was a profound eye opener of a book. There is so much information in there. It is very well presented. It's a little slow in the beginning, but once he gets going, holy shit. I found myself reading the scientific global warming chapters almost as quickly as I was reading the actual fire chapters, because I was just riveted to the direness of some of the information and the shock at the fact that people have known for so long. I mean, they've known since they really started to get a handle on what CO2 was. They've known that it was bad. They've known that in excess it was bad. You know, and oil companies have known. So it's just, it's. I do think people should read this book, but it is a hard book because it will definitely change the way you look at the world. And I finished the book while I was traveling. When I got home, I was pulling into my hill, driving around, and I was like, Jesus, all this would burn. And that was bad because that suddenly put me in that kind of paranoid state. And I was like, you know what? It's like, there's nothing I can do about that. You know, I can clear cut all the trees around me, and that's part of the problem. But that doesn't necessarily mean that if a real storm or of a fire comes up, it ain't just going to jump from my house. And it really becomes this thing of like, I'm not going to make myself crazy, but I'm more prepared now that if I see something coming, I'm going to say, you know what? We're just going to go, because it's people. People are the most important part. And as long as you got your wife and your dog and you're in your car and you're heading the fuck out of a place, there's still a chance to live and move on. Don't you think?
Yes.
And I think that's really what this book taught me. Just that all this shit, all this stuff is just stuff. It's nice, but at the end, it's people. You know, it's the people that make the world. It's the people that make the culture. It's the people. So, and I know that you live where you live, but you mean, you know what? You're also, I mean, you don't get fires necessarily on you though. Like I know you, I don't hear about a lot of fires getting near Sacramento.
No, they've been not that close. I think the closest is maybe half an hour or more away, and that was the closest it ever got. So no, we've been lucky.
I mean, listen,
it's
still enough to make the air shitty. I mean, listen, we had one an hour away, and I could still smell it.
Yeah, listen, it's always a possibility. So I have a bag at the ready. So,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and it's the question of, you know, when do you go? And like in this book, there's many examples of people who went early, and there's people who waited to the last possible minute because they thought they could fight it, and then they barely got out. Yeah. But I mean, it's.
Well, I would not be waiting till the last possible minute. I can assure you of that.
Well, the guy that survived by crawling under the caterpillar machine. What do you call it? The tractor? He was an ex-homicide. He was an ex-homicide detective, and they said that was kind of like the pro and the con. So his wife happened to be away visiting family, so it was just him. He was like a retired homicide cop, and he was one of those guys that when shit gets bad, he gets real calm. And they were like, the fire was coming, and he was like, well, you know what? Maybe it won't come. There's a lake there. Maybe it won't come. It'll be fine. And then all of a sudden it jumped the lake, and he was like, maybe I should go. He's like, it still might not come this direction. And then it did come this direction. He was like, you know what? I should go now. And they said that in the firestorm that was surrounding his car, it was that level-headedness that was like, I'm being sandblasted by burning embers, but there's a caterpillar thing over there, and I'm going to crawl into there, and maybe I'll make it. And it's like, yeah. Whereas if you'd been a little more fearful, you might have been like, you know what? I'm just going to fucking leave here for the night.
Well, I mean, that's my thinking in many ways a lot of times because, for example, when I go for a walk with my dog, I constantly keep an eye out for trucks because if a loose dog comes at us, I need to be able to get her and myself into the bed of a truck because then I can defend against the dog.
Yeah, yeah.
Even if the dog tries to jump, well, I can shove it back down. You know what I mean? So I'm watching. I look for anybody who leaves their gate open. I'll run into somebody's backyard and close the gate on a dog. I don't care. You know what I mean?
Like, does that happen often?
We have only ever seen a loose dog once, and it happened to be a friendly dog. It didn't matter.
Okay.
But
how does your dog react to other dogs? Is she friendly or does she get afraid?
We generally, she seems fine. People who have dogs are aware that you don't just let dogs go up to other dogs because you don't know even a friendly dog could have a bad reaction.
Oh yeah, my brother used to have a Rottweiler, a pit bull, and two Rottweiler pit bull puppies. I mean, they weren't puppies at that point. They were the size of golden retrievers, and they were a really beautiful brown. And honestly, they were the sweetest, kind of dumbest dogs. Like I took care of them at some point many years ago when he had them. They were sweet, dumb dogs. There was no problems with them. You know what I mean? Like I was never in any fear of them, right? But he took them for a walk, and he usually did it at night when there weren't a lot of people around because he realized he had 4 big dogs, and there was somebody walking a Chihuahua across the street, and his dogs took off, and he had him on a leash, but they fucking slipped. They pulled so hard he lost grip on it, and they ran across the street, and he ran and managed to get there in time and grabbed the Chihuahua and held it over his head to save it from his dogs. And it's that kind of situation. You don't know necessarily what your or their dogs are going to do. So,
I carry anti-dog spray and a knife when we go.
Oh,
but my first
you're
option
hardcore,
is to try to just get.
So you're telling me that
make sure nothing kills my dog.
Yeah, you'd shiv another dog to save your dog.
Yeah, but the thing I want to do is get us into a.
I know that's not your first. Listen, I know that's not your first option. I'm just saying that you've thought about it and you've said, "Puppy,
no,
if something comes at you, I'll shiv it."
I've actually practiced with her. She knows how to get behind me, and I have the one hand free, and then I have the knife in the other one, so that I can jab at a dog.
Like I said, I really want that machine. What I don't want to do. I want to go for a walk in your head and just.
Oh, it's terrible. We were talking after one of the.
You know what?
Almost.
I don't think so. I think your head probably looks like one of those British museums where like everything is thought of, and there's just like there's a little bit of it's a halls of like just glass cases full of shit.
Hall of threats.
And there's just a little thing there that's like, this is for if a dog attacks. And it's like a little this is for if a bear attacks. And it's like you've just got it all planned out.
But the thing I was talking about, like as far as be careful what you look up, as how you look it up is I don't remember. It was probably I want to say a month and a half ago. I was up for an hour after I went to bed trying to imagine what happened if I started to sense that the house was falling into a sinkhole. Like if I started hearing noise, because sinkholes can happen anywhere. Even though there's no reason to think that we'll get swallowed by a sinkhole, I had this vivid imagery of the house collapsing.
You had a random doom spiral. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like,
I get
if
that.
the house started to make noise, how would we get out of the window over the bed? Me, my wife, and my dog. And I'm like,
my wife,
I'm going to have to get this.
My wife says to me that she likes to have cats because when there's weird noises in the middle of the night, she goes, "That's probably the cats," and that makes her feel fine with it.
Yeah. No.
Whereas like I have to sleep with a sound machine because I'm like, no, I can't hear these random noises because I'll get up and be like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, a friend of ours, there was one of the, United States shootings that happen all the time. And she was talking about, that she was worried about going into a grocery store and, what would she do? And I'm like, look, the first thing you do when you go into any public store is look for the back exits. Look for where the employees work.
Oh, yeah. I will admit, I stopped wearing headphones when I go grocery shopping. Specifically because I want to hear if something starts happening. Because
I never, ever wear any type of headphones unless I'm alone.
Really?
Then I don't. Well, yeah, because
that's the one time I don't bother.
No, because somebody kills me, it's just me. But if I'm with anybody I care about, I need to be alert.
No, but that's the thing. Like when I'm at the groceries, I'm usually doing the groceries by myself. I used to listen to music, and I kind of stopped because I was like, you know what? I was like, I can't hear what's going on. Like groceries are so loud anyway, but like, I want to hear if something happens. Because I told her, go find the freezer in the grocery store and hide in there.
If you come back there and look at you.
If you hear shots and you can kind of localize where they are, then you should go out, the other direction. My kids at one point, we were talking about school shootings, and they're like, what should we do for this school shooting? I'm like, you break the window and you get the fuck out of the building.
Yeah, you run.
I'm like, I'm sorry. I was like, they can bill me. Right?
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of what I told her. I said, look, a shooter is going to be one of two things. They're either coming from the front because they're an insane stranger, or they're an employee. So you just go the opposite way.
Yeah, wherever you
but
hear,
it's most likely to be an outside person. An employee is going to come in and kill their own people. That's employees usually have a problem.
And listen,
with the company.
We do live in an age where there's a lot of random shit like that, and that we just had this guy in fucking New Orleans drive over people. And now the city's getting in trouble because the bollards they had were only rated for 10 miles per hour. Did you read about that?
Yeah, but to some, I know
and
people are going to get pissed now, but at the same time,
the city is like, yeah, but you know what? Those bollards were there to tell people just don't go. They didn't think somebody was going to be like,
right?
Yeah.
I
was thinking about this because I just recently went to a whole bunch of public spaces in London, and I was very aware. I was like, if something happens here, I was like, some of these places there were so many people that if somebody started stabbing in some of these groups, I wouldn't even have known for a while. You know what I mean? And like, I don't want to live in that kind of doom world. I'm going to live my life, but I also I acknowledge the fact that things.
No, you just have to know where to go.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to have a plan. Like Otherworld would be the perfect place to be in a shooting because they're going to get lost.
I now
You'll be able to outwit them. You're like,
I now have more information about forest fires, and I am now more sober about the danger of them. And I'm too sober about the state of the global warming. But I won't. Because I'm informed now. If I see something coming, I can be like, you know what? Let's just get out of here. It's okay. Let's just get out of here. It's better to not be here and have something happen than be here when it happens. And if you can, there's some people who can't afford to flee, but it's like if you can flee,
and that of course, there's a great privilege in being able to just.
Oh
leave.
Yeah, absolutely. There's great privilege in that.
Yeah. but I'll be honest with you, even somebody who can't leave, know who has a pool in your neighborhood.
Yeah, it depends on what kind of fire it is. It depends on kind of.
Well,
and that's
listen,
the other thing is
it's going to be beeping in your house if you can't leave. You know what I'm saying? It's
I'm
better
beginning
than nothing.
to understand
you can try it.
The different types of fire and the scale, because there is a scale of forest fire that is survivable. There's a scale that's a biblical event that it's like, no, the only thing you can do is get the fuck out of town.
Right. Yeah, but if you can't, it doesn't mean you have no options. It means you have to listen. You have to figure out.
I think that you would
try.
Really enjoy this book and the way the guy approaches it. But I think that there is I have the same problem. There is a doom spiral to this book because you read it and you're like, oh shit, all this shit's going on and I can't do anything about it, But it's like, for me, it's like I haven't lived with forest fires for as long as you have. I only recently saw one here in Jersey, a bad one, and then we had that really bad one in the north. That was in an area that we have friends that live up there, and it was like, okay, they've reached us. Okay, this is bad. And and the funny thing is, when I lived in Vermont, we never had any. I know that there was some, but we never heard about them. I lived on a hill in the woods, and we never heard about them. And even when they do burn-offs up there, right, where they'll burn off an area, and they kind of warn people, they're like, hey, we're burning off 50 acres or something like that, just as a fire break, right? And we were always like, okay, whatever, that's fine, because we never really got them up there. If anything, we had, when I moved, there was a whole lot of flooding, and that's the thing is like, the world is getting warmer. They're getting flooding up there. We never got flooding before. Now they're getting flooding. And now we're getting forest fires in Jersey. And it's like, okay, well, this shit's shit is happening. The hurricanes are getting more intense. The weather is changing. It's not an abstract idea anymore. Like, we are beginning to have real life events. So I'm waiting for that moment in the movie where all the scientists get together and go, "Oh, we've figured out a way to counter this." You know what I mean? Like, I'm hoping that at some point someone figures out a way to capture carbon and eject it out of the solar system. Except the fear is then they'll get it wrong and they'll eject too much and they'll over-oxygenate the environment and then we'll die a different way. That's the tricky balance, isn't it? But life is fragile. And so you should live it really well while you have it. Always live it really well, because you never know what's going to happen. So many ways. There's so many opportunities to die in a day. So live your life to the fullest. And I did enjoy that book. I mean, like I said, the sections about the Fort McMurray fire are, I mean, they're incredible. They're harrowing. And you don't really get that kind of angle on these things. You know what I mean? And so, but not to be a huge bummer, because I didn't want to end with this book because it is a bummer. I did do something else. I found a way to watch TV. I've started, because I don't have a lot of time. I was lucky because I was able to watch quite a bit on this trip, but I have started watching TV on my phone, which I said I would never do. Because I'm like, oh, it's on this tiny screen. But you know what? I don't have the time to sit in front of my big TV. So I just said, fuck it. I'm going to start watching things on the little screen, because it's a matter of, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing badly. Have you ever heard that phrase?
I think I've heard a variation of it.
Yeah. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing badly. And so if I really want to watch this shit, I might as well watch it any way I can. So I loaded some things up on my phone. I brought them on this trip, and I managed to squeeze in some TV time while I was there. I did not get to both things, because I was going to actually watch that series, the Peripheral, the William Gibson series. But I didn't get to that. What I did do was I watched season 2 of Arcane. Now, I can't remember. Is Arcane a series that you said you had no interest in?
Zero.
Really? Why?
I don't know. There's nothing about... Okay. While I certainly have more time to watch things than you do.
Oh, but you have specificity. I know that.
Yeah, but something has to interest me.
I have to watch something. It never interests you. Oh man, it's sad because
I have a feeling it's a combination of things.
Yeah.
I think the one thing is I don't like the art style.
Really? Okay.
I saw the trailer and I was like,
that totally makes sense. If the arts, I love the art style. So for me,
and it's weird because I feel like I should like it. And yet, for some reason, watching it, I mean, they haven't changed it in season 2, right?
No, they haven't. The only thing they did in season 2 is they added more traditional foundations. So for example, there's parts where reality starts to fall apart, and they actually have like weird glitches. And then when there's like a backstory or there's stuff going on in people's heads, they show that as a more traditional. I'm watching the trailer animation.
For season 2. Yeah, it just doesn't.
And
it's
that's
so weird because.
Because you've said before that if the animation isn't good, you will not show up. You said that.
Yeah, but the weird thing about this is that the style, the Arcane, the series, is based on League of Legends, I think.
Yes,
right?
but very loosely.
Okay.
Because League of Legends is like basically StarCraft, a type game.
Yes, but there's a funny bit to this, which is Arcane with a C is based on a video game called League of Legends. Yet the art style of Arcane, the series, looks a lot like the Dishonored series from the video game studio Arcane.
Oh, yeah.
With a K.
It looks
which is so odd.
Yeah, I know.
And I love the Dishonored art style in those games. So I don't know why I don't like it in the series.
It's
but
very
for some
steampunk.
reason, it's...
Well, the thing about League of Legends, it's a very steampunk, and yet it's a weird fantasy world. So like it's a whole world.
Should appeal to me, and I don't know why it doesn't.
There's lots of different places. So, but this particular part of the League of Legends world is the city of Piltover. Piltover, I think it is. Yeah, and it's very steampunk. It's very sort of like fantasy steampunk. And I loved the first series. It was at times very glum.
Yeah, I remember you said it was very good.
But I loved it. I thought it was fantastically done. And it ended on a cliffhanger.
And all the reviews I read of season 2 were excellent.
Yeah, but it ended on a cliffhanger that I knew you would have hated. But they said they were making another season. And what I love about it is that they didn't cliffhanger it. They actually said that this concludes the story of this particular area. They will do more League of Legends, but it will not necessarily be about these people. It'll be other stories in the world. And that's fine because they've got a whole world to play with, right? They have other heroes. Because the thing is, they were using heroes, which are basically like some of the main characters from the strategy game. So all the main characters in this series are based off their hero characters, right? And what's amazing about season 2 is that they learned how to use things without overusing them. Honestly, if I could, I would have the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power people fucking watch this, especially season 2 of Arcane, and fucking learn something. Because things they do great. When they have a lot of exposition, you know what? Or when they have like they need to move things along quickly, they have found a really great way of doing these sort of visual montages that communicate a ton of information without having to say anything, which is good because there's a few of these interventions where there's time jumps where they need to move forward in time, and it's like, okay, well, here you go. Here's the montage. We've given you we've given you all the information you need. You understand what's going on. That's very clever. They're epic slow motion shots. They keep their epic slow motion shots for epic slow motion moments, truly epic moments. They are scattered throughout. They're well done. They make Rings of Power look stupid. And and the Rings of Power thing is only popping up because I was pondering how to review this show, and I realized that a lot of the things I love about this show were like directly in opposition to the things I hated about Rings of Power. I wasn't sure that I was going to like this show or like this season because at first it felt different, and not different in a way that I was prepared for. But then as I got deeper into it, I was like, oh, I like this because they've got a lot of characters, and they figured out how to tell all their stories and really go in vastly different directions and tell some very different stories that all tie back up together. There's a great moment towards the end of the show where there's like one of the final fights is going on, and you've got two characters fighting one thing in this kind of hall space on the top of a tower, and then another one of the characters is fighting another character, and they literally just fire right through the other fight. They don't necessarily have anything to do with each other. They see each other, but they can't do anything to help each other, and they just go in different directions. There's a lot of main characters. There's a lot of story characters. I know that a lot of people focus on Vi and Jinx because they're kind of the two sisters at the center of it. But there's a lot of story characters, and everybody gets kind of their story told. And at times they'll step away and they'll tell somebody else's story for a while, and then they'll come back. There's a really great character called Echo, and I thought of you when I saw this one episode because I thought I think it would echo with you. Is that there's a character called Echo who grew up with the character of Jinx, who's kind of become, she's like the terrorist hero of the Undercity at this point. And they're trying to figure out a way to try to fix things for the Undercity to make it more livable for the people, especially around this one huge tree that's growing under the city where these people kind of live. And in using this technology, this hex tech, they accidentally essentially warp themselves out of the universe. And when they do that, you don't see them again for a while in the show. They're gone. And everyone's like, Jesus, they just disappeared. And they're just gone. You don't know what's happened to them. And then later on in the series, there's a whole episode that's just about what happened to them. And it's really interesting because the character of Echo he ends up in an alternate universe, but he doesn't end up like as himself. He actually ends up in his body, quantum leap style, in the body of another version of himself, in another version of the city, where very different events happened, and everything ended up better. And so the Jinx character is not like a psychopath, and they are kind of involved, and all these people who died in the first season are alive, and everything is better. And there's another character that he warps there with, and the little scruffy mustached animal looking guy. I'm sure you've seen him in the trailer, where he's got the big mustache and he's a big poof ball. He's great. But he's this very old professor. It's like he's kind of the Yoda of this. And he says to the character Echo, he's like, things are great here. Apparently he got there long before Echo. So he was there for 3 or 4 years before Echo showed up. And Echo was like, were you just waiting for me? And he was like, well, there's nothing else I could do. He's like, so I've just been waiting for you to show up. I figured at some point or another, you might. And he's like, okay. And then after a while, they're there, and they realize that the technology doesn't necessarily exist there for them to get back. And the scientist says, well, you know what? He's like, would it be so bad if we stayed? He's like, you're with her. Things are better. He's like, why not just stay? And it's really quite poignant, this idea of like, he's in a better world. He's in a better alternate universe. But because the character has kind of this loyalty to the place he came from, his own dimension, he refuses to stay. He's like, no. He's like, I got to go back. He's like, there are people who are depending on me. He's like, this is great, but I need to go back. And he makes the choice to go back. And it's fantastically done. And he goes back and he makes a huge difference. His going back changes fucking everything. And he gets this really great ability that he can rewind anywhere. He can rewind up to 4 minutes of time and go back, right? It's like short-term time travel. But it's time travel for everybody else. He still carries the damage. So at one point he's trying to keep somebody from blowing themselves up, and he keeps hitting this machine and popping themselves back. But every time he does, he still gets a little bit of the impact. So to the person he's talking to, everything seems normal because he keeps jumping back in time. But for the character of Echo, he's getting steadily more fucked up as the conversation goes on, and he tries to keep this person from killing themselves. There's little clever elements like that all through the series. It is written exceptionally well. Every character gets their moment. Every character gets their story. If you're not a fan of one character, that's okay. Somebody else will pop up very soon. There's a big swirl of storyline. I personally love the animation and love the different ways that they've tried to include other animations. And like the fact that I was not prepared for the direction the story was going to go. I thought it was going to go one way when the series started, and it went in a direction I was not prepared for. And the big bad of the story wasn't even the big bad that I thought it was going to be. I was genuinely sideswiped by when things truly got bad in the story, and the city went to war, who they went to war with. Because essentially there's a scientist character from the first season who who's like the main scientist guy is Jace. He's the guy with that big power hammer. And Jace has this friend who they've done all the science together, and the friend has like oh god, what is it called? He's basically got like a lame leg, and he's got a crutch. And as they become more famous, the Jace character gets very famous because he's good looking, and he gets more notoriety, and the two of them separate a little bit. There's more space between them, and the friend starts working on this hex tech technology that's much more unstable. And when the cliffhanger happens at the end of the first season, where essentially Jinx fires a bomb at the council chamber where all these main characters are, the friend almost dies, and Jace uses this experimental hex tech to bring his friend back, to save him. But in doing so, he has now bonded his friend with this strange, unstable technology, which is kind of like turned huge portions of his body into almost like wizard technology. This is really the only way you can put it. It's like magic technology. And this guy finds that he has the ability to tap into people's minds and essentially create almost like a gestalt consciousness where he can, very like Cybok, he can take their pain. He can take their pain, he can fix their bodies, and then they all become sort of linked in this all the people are linked with each other in sort of a very sort of low-key way, like, you know, like background Wi-Fi. But they're all linked very directly to him, and he can actually pop in and out of their minds at will and kind of
I don't want my pain taken away. I need my pain.
Exactly. And for most of the series, he's not a bad character. He's healing people. He's actually helping, and he's a good character. But they get to a point at the end where things go so horribly wrong, and he is so done with society that he wants to heal everybody. He wants to basically answer the problem of people. And in doing so, he basically wants to evolve everybody into some kind of, I don't know.
Share your pain with me.
Yeah.
Gain strength from sharing.
Not even that. He wants to turn almost into machines at the end. He just wants to evolve. Like into almost like technological.
So he's Brainiac.
Yes,
kinda.
he gets a little bit Brainiac at the end, but he's doing it because he actually thinks it will be better. And the Jace character, his friend, who he gets popped into an alternate dimension as well. The alternate dimension he ends up with is a dimension where that all happens, and basically the whole world gets fried, and nothing is left alive. And the Jace's friend realizes that he may have done something wrong, that it was not. There's a great line in there where he says, "I was left with a field, a dreamless field of bodies," or something like that. And so Jace has this information now given to him by his own friend, but this future version of him, and tries to go back and stop it all. But the friend becomes the big bad because he basically offers his technology to an army, and the army thinks that they're going to get a whole army of super soldiers that no one will be able to defeat, not realizing that if this guy gets to the central core machine that he wants to get to, he's going to turn everybody into a fucking machine. Like, it doesn't matter, but you've got these warmongers who are so short-sighted in their goals, they don't realize how bad it will be if this guy gets this thing. And that becomes the big bad at the end of the show. Like, that becomes the final conflict that kind of takes over the whole city, which it evolves so naturally. Like, the plot is so well twisted on itself that when it finally occurs, it makes perfect sense. Like, you don't get there and go, well, this was unlikely. No, it's like, no, the way this all has unraveled upon itself, you're like, no. Like, this makes perfect sense the way this has occurred. The writing is fantastic. They really just have wound these characters around each other and had a fascinating story. They didn't answer every question, which I like, because at the end, the Jace character and his friend they leave. They take this technology, and rather than try to fix people, they take. So there's a small group of people that he evolved into these kind of super machines, but their consciousness is still there. He takes them all with him. They disappear at the end. And Jace goes with them because he's like, I made the mistake of not being there for you. He's like, I'm staying with you now till the end. And there's no way of knowing what happens to them. There's actually been a lot of talk online about that, where people are like, did they all die? Did they go to an alternate dimension? And it's like, no, you don't know. They went somewhere inexplicable. And I like that it's so weird that you don't know what happens to them. But they leave. Jace leaves, his friend leaves, they take all the people that he evolved with him. And the city survives. And the attacking army is defeated, and everybody is left scarred by it. Those who survive are left scarred by it. And what's interesting is also, along with having this huge cast of characters, there's a massive cast of secondary characters that pop in and out of the scenes and that are just as interesting. There's this one guy that looks like an overweight Wolverine, and he is all through the series. Like, he's this background character. At one point, he's getting drunk with the Vi character. he's a cop for a while there, and then he kind of disappears, and then like he's there at the end helping with this valiant fight, and he has his own moment. This, small moment, but he has a moment nonetheless, and you're like, holy shit! They're like they're giving so many characters their due in this large story. It's incredibly well handled. I completely understand that you don't like the art, and I understand that as an animated series, if you don't like the animation, then you're not going to check in. But story-wise, I personally like the art, and I think story-wise, it is probably one of the best written things I've seen out there in a long time. And I am sad that they're not doing another season, but I understand they did everything in this season that they were going to do. Another season would be pointless of this cast in this city. I'm looking forward to whatever it is that they decide to do in this world. They have a lot of material that they can work with. It's very open-ended, so they can do a lot of weird shit. There's a lot of heroes they have to pick from their game. I don't know if League of Legends wanted this to be as popular as it was, because it doesn't really drive traffic to the game. You just want to watch more of the show. But I loved it. I thought it was great. And anybody who's looking for a fun fantasy steampunk series who hasn't seen it already, you should watch season 1 and season 2. They're great, and they link right up into each other, into one larger story. You don't need to take a pause. I mean, literally the season finale of season 1 and the season opener go right into each other. And it's just, exceptionally well done. So there's my positive review. You still with me?
Yeah, like I said, I've read very good things about it.
I know, it's a shame the art doesn't do it for you, because it
listen,
is.
I'm happy to hear that a show got more than one season and got to finish.
Oh yeah, and it was very
That's good.
smart, because when you watch the season 2, you get this sense that they could have dragged this through 2 seasons.
Yeah.
But they didn't want to. Or they worried that they couldn't. So they were like, fuck it, let's just put it all in there. And the thing is,
listen,
like,
that's fine.
Yeah, and at first it feels a bit quick. Like the first couple episodes, things happen quickly. But then it settles into its pace, and you're like, now we're good. I was like, this shit is moving. And sometimes it moves so far in an episode that you're like, where the hell are they going to go? And then they keep going. So, and the thing is, I know that a lot of people are obsessed with, was it Vi, and I can't remember her name now. She ends up with an eye patch. There's a very well done lesbian relationship at the center of this show. It's very well done. It's not ham-handed. It's not overdone. Even when these two characters finally get together, I was really worried that they were gonna like overdo it, because for a show that is like very hard and gritty, like it also has an air of the ridiculous at times with the way they handle certain things. I was waiting for the sex scene to be cringy, and it wasn't. It was handled. It was brief. It was handled very well, and it spelled out that these two characters had reconnected. And there's a great thing in there where the two characters are separated for a while, and she's basically the head of the police. She has a relationship with somebody else, and they're separated for a while, and so when they get back together, they're kind of like about to reconnect, and they're about to just like have that moment you've been waiting for. And the cop character is like, I have to let you know. She's like, well, we were separated. She's like, I saw somebody else. And the Vi character's like, I don't fucking give a shit. And they just go back into it. And I'm like, that's really well done. It's like, all these really well written little moments that add up to an overall great story. And I put off watching it for a while. I was excited when I heard it was coming out, but I put off watching it for a while because season 1 is very grim. And it's less, it's not that it's less grim than season 1. It's that because things are evolving, so naturally they have to come to an end, and some of those ends are good and some of those ends are bad. But like season 1 is very grim. It's very good, but it's very grim. Whereas season 2 is less grim, despite the fact that so much bad shit does happen throughout. I mean, the episode where the Echo character goes into the alternate dimension and basically finds like a happier version of his world is heart-wrenching because he doesn't stay. And it's like, well, no, he doesn't stay because he knows that elsewhere there are people who are depending on him. But it's hard because it's like he's in this other world where everything worked out, and yet he has the strength to kind of look away and come back. So yeah, fantastic. At some point, maybe the animation will grow on you and you'll watch it. But at least it's
possible.
But at least it's out there.
No, like I said, look, just because it's not for me, I will always champion a series that got an ending.
Yeah.
You know what? That beats a lot of series that I really like that never got an ending.
I'll tell you what's really weird, though. So on Twitter, there's a woman that you and I both follow. What's her name? Is it She
the
Rage?
Wonder Woman one?
Yeah, She Rage.
Yeah.
It's Claire Max, right? Claire Max looks
I
like...
I was going to say, I think her name is Claire Max.
Yeah. So she looks like the Vi character, and she cosplays as the Vi character. She's a model. And she is jacked like the Vi character. And then her girlfriend or her wife, I don't know if they might be married. Her wife, we'll just say her wife. Her wife cosplays as the cop character from the series. And so they have done...
Perfect.
Yeah, and so they've done all these like scenes of the two of them dressed up as a couple. And it drives people crazy because they're like, oh my God, they look just like the couple from the series. And you're like, yeah, they really do. I mean, she's jacked like the Vi character. And they built the props too. So she's got the big fucking metal gloves.
Oh, yeah. No,
Yeah,
she does
so
a lot
it's-
of prop work. So, yeah, I'm not surprised.
Oh, yeah. They do very good prop work. That is the one thing about
They
cosplaying
do.
I could never do. I like the idea of dressing up, but I can't build shit. That's not where my strengths lie. And people build stuff and they're like, I saw the top of this bottle cap and realized that would be the perfect button for this thing. And like watching the psychology of how people put things together sometimes, and I'm like, that is not how my mind works. And I'm almost I am almost slightly envious of it because I'm just like, wow, it'd be interesting to have that kind of mind where you can take just like random shit and put it together and make a thing. It's like, I can't do that. It's impressive. So.
It is. Yeah. Anybody who can do that type of stuff on even a decent level is impressive.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm the same way.
So
It's
if you're,
I have no head for any of that.
no, and you listen, we both have our areas of expertise.
That's true. Yeah.
But if you if you haven't seen Arcane, it's totally worth watching. It's fantastic. It's steampunk fantasy. It's very cool, well written. Season 1 and 2 are great. And then if you really like the Vi character, check out Claire Max because man, she looks just like that character. It's crazy how good that cosplay is. Yeah. So that's I remarkably actually had quite a bit of stuff.
You did. Yes. Yeah.
Despite being on the move as much as I was.
Right. Yeah.
Honestly, I think being on the move is probably why I had as much as I did because I had a lot of, trains, planes, and hotel rooms.
Sure. Time to fill.
Yeah, time
In
to fill that
between
at
time to
home.
fill.
Time to fill that at home. I would have been like doing, home shit or playing video games
Right.
with you. I think this is the
Yeah.
longest you and I have gone without like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying to I'll tell you what's really weird though. This is your funny girly moment between me and Joe. I was sitting in my hotel room and I was like, man, you know what? I should text Joe because it's been a while since we talked. It's like, shit, I should text him. You texted me about 30 seconds later. And we're like, hey, how you doing? What's going on? And I was like, oh, he texted. And it was just so funny because I was literally sitting there thinking, should I text him? And I was trying to figure out the time difference. So I didn't text you at a horrible fucking time. And then you texted me and I was like, oh, that is so funny. The synchronicity that both of us were like, I wonder what the other one's doing right now.
Right.
So yeah, I thought that was very funny.
That is funny.
So what have you got for me, sir?
3 things. 2 are very small.
Okay.
One is actually just a PSA. Because I don't know that a lot of people are aware of this. But I actually told my wife about this because I happened to come across it. So if this is very, very specific to people who are running the latest version of iOS or have a newer Mac, Apple, the privacy company, has opted everybody in to a little AI feature for your photos, which I would suspect bothers a few people. My wife turned it off immediately.
Hold on.
So,
okay, go on.
Yeah, get your iPhone,
Yep.
right? I want to see if you have this on by default, unless they've
go for
changed something very quickly.
Okay.
Hers was on. So go into General.
Okay.
And then you want to go to... Oh, I'm sorry, not General. Settings. Settings is separate from General now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I'm in settings.
Yeah.
General is an option
Settings.
in settings.
Settings, apps, if you have that.
Hold on. Let me find apps. Yep, apps.
Yeah. And then go to Photos.
Oh, I can already tell I don't like where this is going.
Yeah, I bet you
Hold
don't.
on.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
See if you have a feature called Enhanced Visual Search. You might not. If you're not all the way up to date, you might not.
Oh, yeah. Allows this device to privately match places in your photo with a global index maintained by Apple, so you can search by almost any landmark of point or interest. I'll shut that off.
Would you like to leave that on?
No, just shut the fuck off. Does my penis count as a place of interest or a landmark?
Supposedly, you know what? I suspect if you photograph it so it looks like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, it might.
Man, you know what photo I would love to get? Just because it'd be
Yes.
weird and funny. I would love a photo of like my penis right next to Big Ben, but like do the forced perspective. They look they're the same size.
Sure.
But
sure.
I don't know how you would do that.
Well,
you'd need somebody's like hotel room or something like this, like looking at Big Ben. But that would be very funny.
It would be. I bet somebody has done it,
Yeah.
but I don't think it would be easy.
But does your penis come out as a landmark? Then I wonder. So why is that feature magically on?
It's a good question for a company that touts privacy and security.
You know what it is?
Their
I-
North Star.
I get this feeling that companies basically make these new features and they go, "Hey, everybody's going to want this." I mean, this is like the whole U2 thing, where Apple was like, "You know, it'd be great if we gave everybody a free U2 album." And you're like, "Listen,
Yeah.
stop and think about this. You're just magically going to put music on everybody's device, whether they want it or not."
It is odd that after Microsoft so badly bumbled their recall feature, and I'm not saying this is a one-to-one comparison, it is absolutely not, by opting everybody, or saying that everybody would be opted in and everybody lost their minds, that Apple, the company that tends to place themselves above all others in terms of your privacy and security, would not make it something that you had to choose to enable.
I think there's a lot of people that aren't going to see the full diabolical nature of something like this. They're going to be like, "Oh, that's a nice feature. Okay."
I wouldn't even necessarily call it diabolical. I think that it's fine, but I think the fact that you're opted into it automatically
without an option
is itself a giveaway to the fact that, guess what, guys? Apple doesn't actually care.
They keep turning my fucking iCloud on me, and it's like, I have no interest in your cloud bullshit.
Well,
I am not one of those people.
That's everything. That's Microsoft. They all do that. So, again, this is one of those things where Apple betrays a bit that they are actually just like every other company.
No, listen.
It comes down to it.
At the end of the day, they're a corporation, and the corporation wants nothing more than to make money for its people. They don't give a shit otherwise.
And it would, like I said, it wouldn't be a big deal if you had the option to turn it on.
Yeah.
I am legitimately
give me the
surprised
feature,
they didn't
but don't
do
just
that.
don't just turn it on. Yeah.
It is
you
a
saw that
strange oversight.
That they are no longer making the helmet, right?
For what?
That they're stopping production of the helmet, the VR helmet.
You mean the Vision Pro thing?
Yeah.
No, they're not going to stop it. They're changing. They're going to change it. All
right.
Okay.
I'm sure that they're going to make a new one, but the one as we know it right now, they are no longer going to produce.
Because yeah.
They are stopping production of it.
This is Apple. Apple's handling of the Vision Pro is its own show because it is so weird that what the Vision Pro really shows.
You said something to me, and tell me if you think this is right. You said something to me a while ago, and it makes a lot of sense. Essentially, they wanted to put it out there, and they wanted to see what people would do with it. It was basically for people to fuck around and to almost give them ideas of like what the usage of it was. You know, like almost like they wanted production people to kind of take it and make things, right? And either they're at the end of that rope, and they have now gotten all the information that they want to then move on to something else, or it didn't work out and they're going to move on to something else.
Well, they're based on some of the reporting there's been. It is that, but it also is a result of the fact that the VR AR thing, the whole concept inside the company, is a very divisive thing. That there's really like half the company thinks it's a waste of their time and it's going to go nowhere, and the other half thinks that it's the future. And the problem is that the two halves have leaders on both sides.
Well, and is it? Yeah,
and
is
so what
it
they've
vaporware?
been doing is developing, and somebody probably finally said, and maybe it was Tim Cook, or maybe it was somebody else who has Tim Cook's ear, said, let's just put the thing out there and let's see what happens. And it either is going to go nowhere, and we'll just, because they said from the beginning, we're only going to sell as many as we order. Like they said something along those lines.
I read a really interesting article about somebody who bought one and tried to use the hell out of it, right? And this was like somebody who gave it a very clear shot. They did some interesting, like they worked out wearing it, and they used it for work and stuff like that, and tried to use it, and they said that they really liked a lot of when it did things right, it did things really well. They said what they hated about it was that it was hugely isolating, that it made you feel disconnect. Even though you can see your environment, it made him feel disconnected from his environment, and didn't make. And it was like, and it's like I kind of understand that, because you're it's the whole, if you're watching TV by yourself. And he was saying that he wished that there was more of an interactive aspect to it, like we could, like you and other people with the helmet could all see kind of the same thing, the same sort of. The problem is that means it's $30-something $100 a person, and that's just never going to fly. Oh yeah. But that's what I'm saying,
is that extremely rich people.
Yeah, exactly. And essentially, it doesn't do enough. It doesn't do enough for how expensive it is.
I believe Apple was taken by surprise by how popular the Meta Ray-Bans have been.
Oh, yeah,
because that's kind of the opposite side.
I haven't really read anything of those.
You know what? If somebody other than Meta makes them, and I'd want them. They're basically Ray-Bans with a camera in them, and to me, that's actually very appealing to have kind of the option for a point of view camera, because like I would do drawings and record like stuff like that. Like it would be interesting to do like product reviews, that type of thing, to have a camera like that, or just to have that ability.
Yeah.
Obviously, something where people would know what's on. You don't want it to be hidden, which is always a trick. But you can hardwire that, so it can't be done. And you don't want to
strap a GoPro to your head. I get it.
Well, right. Yeah. But if the biggest problem with the Meta Ray-Bans is, number one, Meta is in it, and I don't want Meta. And the other is that there's a limit on how much you can record. I think it's like 60 seconds of video. Well, I'm sorry, I need more than that.
Whoa, and that's barely enough to do anything.
Well, unless you want to stream through Facebook Live.
Oh, well,
then you can go forever.
Yeah.
I don't think they've. Let me see.
Buy into our walled garden, please.
Let me see if it says how long. Yeah, live stream. Yeah, Instagram and Facebook. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to see what the capture limit is. Doesn't say here, but I'm pretty sure it's 60 seconds. It might be 2 minutes. But let's see here. Does it say? On memory, it's got 32 gigs. So I understand. I mean, you're not going to be able to do that much in.
But you know what? I don't know, because it just seems like with how small you can make these flash drives now. I don't understand why they didn't make it slightly bigger.
I would suspect. Hold on, I'm looking up to make sure that nothing has been updated. Give me a second. I have a feeling I know why. Video length, 3 minutes.
All right, 3 minutes. Okay, 3 minutes is a little better.
Default is 60 seconds. It's better, but I would... Okay, so the main reasons, if I had to guess, and I don't know this, I haven't read anything on it from a technical perspective, is, one, heat. They will heat up, because the longer you run it, you're doing a lot of processing, especially if you're capturing even at 1080. Those glasses are probably going to start to heat up. And the other is you'll kill the battery. You will annihilate the battery. So since they look like normal sunglasses, they're not these huge,
there's no chunky bit to it. They just stuffed it all in there.
Exactly.
Okay. So do you remember the Oakleys? Do you remember the
yeah. What were those called?
Or the Thump. They were like the Bose Thump or something like that. Yeah, and they had like a big chunky thing on the side. Yeah, and you could see that there was a big chunky thing there.
Yeah, because if you look at them, you really can't tell
They just look
that
like
they're
glasses.
not normal. There's nothing about them that looks abnormal. I mean, that's the arms look a little thick, but not enough that you wouldn't think they were
you know what?
intentionally so.
There are glasses out there that are intentionally quite thick.
I was going to say, because some of the one of the reasons I don't like modern Oakleys is a lot of them have that kind of thick look now. You've seen the modern ones.
Oh, I know. That was it. The Jack Marie Mage or Mage, whatever, the ones that Jeff Goldblum wears. Those are thick as fuck. Like you could fucking hit
like I
people
said,
with those things.
If you look at somebody wearing the Ray-Bans,
Yeah.
the Meta Ray-Bans, you really can't tell. And part of that is so they have obviously a minimal battery. And the way that they can keep the battery running is to cut down how long it can run.
Yeah.
I would like the option to be able to turn that off and just say, nope, run it till it's dead. And then, I would like them. But A, it's Meta, which fuck you.
Yeah.
And B, 3 minutes? No, sorry. And I don't even know. Yeah. So that's the thing but a lot of people like them. And it's very clear.
I guess my question then is, what are they doing with them?
Who? Meta or?
Yeah, what is the
Apple?
usage that people, are they just using this? They can put up, TikTok videos and.
Oh, yeah. Well, a lot of it is that their thing, Meta's idea is, you'll put it on Instagram and Facebook, which is us. So that's fine. That's their angle. Apple, I think, thought that people wanted to use a headset to do computing. And it's just, as you said, a lot of the people who are even enthusiasts have complained about the isolation of it. And I completely agree with it. Also, I don't even care about the isolation. It's just a ridiculous price.
Oh, and
for something that has very little utility.
And if you needed to have glasses, like if you wear glasses, you have to get a prescription on it. That right there.
I mean,
well,
but all that is secondary. If something is really that neat, you don't care.
Yeah, but you do if it's that fucking expensive. The fact that it's already that expensive, and then on top of that,
not just that it's expensive, but that it doesn't do all that much.
Well, yeah, because
it really doesn't.
It basically cuts you off. I mean, you're not sharing the monitor with others; it's your own monitor.
Yeah, and really, but even if you don't care about the isolation, okay, you're a nerd with a lot of money at home alone. Fine, okay. All you're gonna be seriously, but you're gonna watch movies. You're gonna compute wherever you're sitting, I guess. Yeah. And what? Watch
TV.
What else is there? What else has the Vision Pro done? And that's the problem. It's not really even just the expense. The expense, that's like buying a Lamborghini that can only drive in reverse on, I don't know, one-way roads. Okay. Well, you got a Lamborghini. It only goes in backwards on one-way roads.
Well, listen, is
that really what you want to spend Lamborghini money on?
This is like having an iPhone with no signal. It just becomes an iPod.
But then you look at the Metas, which don't make you look like a freak in public, number one.
That's true.
I think they're $400 or $500. They're certainly far less, an order of magnitude less. They don't let you compute, but I just have not seen enough people who think that that's a reason to get something. They let you accomplish many of the things that people want to do. I mean, I don't think you can watch movies on them, but there's even cheap glasses that do that. You could, for $300 or $400, you can get a pair of glasses that will give you a giant 200-inch screen if that's what you want, like an IMAX screen. Still far less, and they're not this big thing that makes you look like, you just look like a dupe wearing those things. You just do. And people will say, oh, I don't care. Whatever, man. Yes, you do care. Don't pretend you don't. You do. Because many people will not wear them except if they're on a plane or at home. If you really didn't care, you'd wear them everywhere.
You know what?
And almost nobody's doing that.
This is the gargoyle thing from Snow Crash. This is I don't want to look like that kind of person.
yeah, it's that kind of thing. But like I said, the biggest thing I really do believe is that
I've never
even
seen
people
one
who thought...
I've never seen one in the wild, by the way.
I saw one. I did see one on our flight out.
Oh, interesting.
There was somebody who had one. But interestingly, that person didn't have it on the whole flight.
Well, probably ran
which I was sure that they would.
Probably ran out of power.
Well, what they probably did was start to fall asleep, and wearing that when your head's lolling around, I'm sure it causes neck problems. I'm sure it does. No, really, I'm sure that that's a couple of pounds on your head all the time.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's not nothing.
Yeah.
So I don't know where. I think Apple's ultimate goal, and maybe this is, a lot of people say this is the beginning of a 10-year journey to making smart sunglasses, which I do think if they do that, yes, that's what everybody wants.
I already have to wear glasses, so.
I saw there was a demo.
You want to take my iPhone and figure out a way to squeeze it into my glasses?
There was I don't remember who made it, but there was a pair of glasses that they were demoing, and they were saying, okay, this is, like, it had a thing where it was the GPS in the glasses, which just for me would be fantastic. And the thing was, it adjusted. If you looked up, it kind of put itself down a little bit in the corner with an arrow saying in 9 feet you're going to do this. And then when you look down, it would actually lay down the arrow on the pavement.
Oh,
like,
see,
it was really
I would have
neat.
liked that because I did a lot. I used my phone a lot for on-foot navigation.
That's what I'm saying. If you think about those glasses, those type of glasses, you'd get them in a heartbeat. And so would I, even not traveling. I would love to just be able to call up information and know what's around. You know? That stuff's all really interesting. But that's what people want, is a pair of sunglasses that does all that stuff. And we will get there, but that's got to be, I would say, a decade off. Just because, not because of the tech, but because of battery and comfort, meaning overheating and running the battery down. That's the biggest challenges to this stuff. We obviously know that the sensors, the cameras, that's all there already. That's all done. It's all there. You have to be able to get it into something that's lightweight, doesn't look stupid, and won't die in 30 minutes. That's the challenge. And the problem is those challenges are the one thing that we haven't seen big advances in, which is miniaturization and improvements in battery and heating. There's probably design ways to fix that with like passive cooling and a couple other things, especially when you think about what they're doing with like Apple Silicon, that type of stuff. Apple can probably do it, but they're not there yet. And it's probably, although I don't know anything, I have no insider info, can't tell you, but it's likely because I think that when this product started is when the VR hype was in full swing. And what they were going for was an isolating headset where you disappear into another world. And then they realized, oh, no, we've jumped. This hype train is going to smash into the rocks once again, which it did. And what people really want is AR, something where the world, because there's, you don't have the motion sickness problem. You don't have a lot of the problems that you can have with VR. They don't exist with AR because it's an overlay. It's not a replacement. It's an augmentation. And what people want is augmentation, not replacement. They don't want to feel sealed off. Well, let's put it this way. Most people don't want to be sealed off. There are a subset. That's fine. Those people will buy whatever things they want. But most people want something that enhances what they're looking at, not replaces. So,
they also want to be able to do it with other people.
Well, ways, that's why I wonder.
Yeah, it's this to some degree. It is the social experience. A lot of this technology,
and this could be the people in Apple who said this is a bad idea. But you know what? We should release it. Yeah, release it so that when it torpedoes, they can then say, "See, this isn't what people want. What they want, kind of Apple Watch style. Famously, Apple Watch was initially intended to be a luxury item." Until it came out and nobody cared about it as a luxury item. That's why there's not a gold edition anymore. The $10,000 gold one, can't buy that anymore because what people started using it for was fitness and health. And Apple went, oh yeah, that's what we always intended it for. And they just swiveled into that and put a bunch of money into it. So yeah, this is a test bed. And I think what we're seeing in the use case is that people do not want a VR headset. They want an AR headset. And the Meta Ray-Bans have proven that as well because they've been very popular and people actually like them. They don't like the meta part, but they like how they work because that's what they want it to be. So, listen, Apple is in a position to spend a ton of money and just flush it and not care. And so they can do this because they know that there is a group of users with a lot of disposable income who will buy anything that has an Apple on it, even if it's not a great product. AirPods Max, another great example. You notice that hasn't exactly taken off. $500 headphones that look stupid and have a terrible case.
Oh, is this the overhead headphones they did?
Yeah, the overhead ones with the bra carrier. Yeah, that. But Apple can afford to subsidize it because they're the richest company on the planet, or one of the top 3 at any given time. So, can they lose a ton of money on this and figure out what the actual end product could be? Yeah, they can, and they probably will. So at some point, the joke will be that in 10 years they come out with the Apple glasses and they'll blow everybody else out. And they probably will.
Unless somebody beats them to it.
Well, no matter what, Apple can do a luxury version of them or a high-end
Well, they can
version
do
of them.
a version that works seamlessly with their ecosystem, and that's kind of the bigger thing.
Yeah, and they'll be, let's say that Google comes out with a pair that's $500, Apple's will be $1,000, and they'll be like, well, you can go buy the $500 ones. That's, go ahead. But ours is $1,000, and it's made of hyperlight titanium, which we have figured out how to, conduct heat away, and that's why our battery can outlast everybody else.
They'll make up a new metal. They'll be like, it's unobtainium. It's amazing.
Well, they will probably, but in seriousness, they probably will be able to engineer a solution that will allow them to solve the battery problem. Is a battery problem, and I don't know who's going to fix that because that's a bigger than Apple problem.
About the new, there's a new battery that Toyota is.
I did see that, yes.
Yeah,
but I don't think that's for cars.
It's for cars, but the technology it does make you wonder,
Well, there have been several promising battery technologies in the last about 10 years. The problem has been that none of them have been able to work small. They work big, they don't work small.
Yeah.
And, portable electronics have to be small. So that's the reason we're still using the lithium-ion batteries in phones when, they're not great. They can explode.
That was
catch fire.
In my flight. They have chargers. I flew back on Virgin Atlantic, and they had chargers, and they were like, if your charger is plugged into your device and your device begins to smoke, quickly unplug it and call
unplug it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a bag. They have a bag to put in.
And I was like, oh, is that something that I have to worry about with your charging systems?
Oh, well, yeah, because this is the thing that I don't think many people are aware enough of.
Yeah.
Lithium-ion batteries can be very sensitive. So when people drop their phones, if the screen doesn't break, they tend to go, whew, nothing happened. Well, yeah, maybe. But if you fuck with that battery, it doesn't take much for it to go crazy. So, and those are like when the cars catch on fire. It's like, you can't stop it. It's a runaway fire.
And burns.
But I believe what they have on the flights is a bag. They put it in, and the bag can contain it. It's I don't know what it's called.
It's like
I think
a burn
it's a bag
bag
they
or
put
something.
it in. Yeah, something like that. That's made for that type of thing, and that's why they want you to. They'll put that in there, and they'll do it because you can't put it in water. Don't do that. No, that's not going to fix it. So
just throw it out the plane.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know where Vision Pro is going to be. I don't even know that you call it a failure because I don't know that Apple ever saw it as being a success. So it's tough to say. It's tricky. I don't know. Anyway, that's just a PSA about the folks.
I wasn't trying to derail you.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I'm fascinated by the Vision Pro because I think it is interesting both as a public spat of Apple's being put out there without them saying as much.
Yeah.
But also, I think it is an Apple Watch situation where I think that they're settling a bet inside the company, and they really didn't know which way. I really do. I think there was two types of thought to it, and somebody, and maybe it was Tim Cook, finally said, "You know what? We're gonna fucking release it, and let's see what the market tells us, because I'm sick of listening to you whine all meeting long about AR versus VR. You've shot enough rubber bands at yourselves across the table. I'm paying you too much for this crap. Just release it, and let's see what happens." Because they both don't talk about it as much as they do their other products, but they also remind you that it exists.
Yeah.
Which to me means they want to see where people take it. That's fine. So anyway, the photos thing. So turn that shit off if you don't want it. If you want it, leave it on because you're opted in. The other thing I wanted to point out is I have been fascinated for a long time, and I've wanted to bring it up multiple times in the show, and I always forget, is I've talked many times about how much I love fonts. And typefaces and all that stuff. I just love it. And one thing that I absolutely adore, and if people have never looked into this, they should, is this is an actual physical type of writing called architectural lettering. You probably know what this is. This is how architects write on plans. It's a very specific way of writing.
It's very systemized, yeah.
Oh, you do it with rulers and like triangles. It is magnificent. I'm going to link to a website called Art Departmental that has a whole, how you do it.
Yes,
and
I can see it. Yeah, I just found it.
I have loved this style of writing because number one, it's not script, and I hate script. It's block letters.
Yep,
it's
print.
very artistic and stylish and
you
beautiful
found
and magnificent.
A typeface for it. Yeah.
There's several. The one that is closest is called.
I like the Tecton one.
Well, the one I found. Well, one of the ones. There's many. Yeah. It's called Architect NDP, as in what would it be? Oh, jeez. God, what is N in military? I guess I'll say Neon Delta Papa, but I don't know what N is. I'm screwing that up. But anyway, yeah, Architect. I'll link to the in the show. It's got. I'll put the link to this page that explains what it is and shows it. But even the way that some people write their A's is just a triangle, which I love. That. It's very 80s looking. I like it. But there's a whole thing.
The B looks like a 3 almost with a little line at the end.
Yes, the C is often like what looks like a sideways U. It's very wide.
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful in a time where this type of physical writing is really going away because people are just used to typing everything. This is one of the areas where it is deeply preserved. This is a style of writing that is taught, that is used. So when you see blueprints and you see this really beautiful writing on it, I just love it. I love that it's still around. I love the way it looks. It might be my favorite physical type of handwriting, period, that I ever have seen, because it has this distinct, repeatable feeling to it. And it is reflective of what it is referring to, which is very specific ways of building something. It looks like something that is onomatopoetically visual, in that, it looks like something that you build something to, and that's what it's used for, putting it on specific plans to make something. And it's just gorgeous. So I don't know that most people are really aware of it, because I don't know how many people see blueprints, but every time, one of the things that always reminds me of it is in the Daredevil series in the first season. At one point where Daredevil fights the Kingpin in this building, they're looking at plans for Hell's Kitchen, and that writing is there. And I'm like, oh, that fucking writing is so beautiful. And it's just, and that's what it is. It's blueprint writing or architectural lettering. I didn't even know what it was called until like a week ago. I always just called it blueprint writing, but it's apparently the actual name for it is architectural lettering. So architectural lettering is something I would recommend everybody look up, because
if you like,
absolutely gorgeous
font.
I think anybody would appreciate it, at least from a craft level. You may not love it as much as I do, but looking at it and looking at how it's done and how to do it is fascinating, because it's one of the few things that isn't, it is calligraphy, but it's not one most people would necessarily know about. So anyway, I'll link to a really nice article on it that shows you how you can do it and the fonts there. And I just wanted to mention that. And before I do my movie review...
200 hours later...
As we have passed the 2-hour mark.
And here we are.
And here we are at... Oh, what a film I have. What a film I have for you. I found I believe a woman. I don't actually know. I don't know. I just go by the name. But an individual on Blue Sky who posts constant, weird... B-movies, underground films, all kinds of stuff that is just magnets for me. And this person said, yeah, I'm watching that shitty movie Endgame. No, not MCU shitty Endgame, but 1983's shitty Endgame. And I thought, oh, what's this? And I looked it up, and I saw that it was an Italian production, which, of course, it is. And it is an Italian ripoff spectacular.
Oh my god.
Interestingly,
look at this poster.
The movies it is most directly ripping off, more or less, did not exist when it was made.
Okay.
Now, what a lot of people say is that it's a Mad Max ripoff. And so, okay. Matt, if I had to describe, without somebody knowing what the Road Warrior was,
Yeah.
if I was to describe the Road Warrior, I would say, okay, it's about this guy who doesn't really like people and ends up really to serve himself, but also because he deeply inside is not nearly as hard-boiled as he comes off as. He tries to help these people who are basically under siege by a bunch of bad guys. I mean, that's what you would say, right? More or less, that's what it is. If you had to describe the movie in a nutshell.
Yeah, I could see that.
Right. But Road Warrior is very stationary it's really about the people inside that perimeter until, the beginning and the end aren't, but the middle of it is they're trapped there and Humongous and his people keep trying to get in. They wanted their stuff. But they don't move until the very end. Endgame is really 2 movies, more or less, which is The Running Man. In fact, I'm going to play the opening. This is how much this is The Running Man. What was it? Running Man is 87, I want to say. It's at least 2 to 4 years after this movie. But listen to this opening and tell me what other movie this would be imitating.
Endgame is here again. That great international sport, a grand tradition since it was started back in 2012, can be followed on your video contactors in any corner of this planet. The zone chosen for the event lies between 22nd and 33rd Street in the port area. The game is slated to start in about 20 minutes and will end at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. The 3 hunters will therefore have 12 hours to track down their prey. In this case, Ron Shannon. Now, this is the 7th time that Endgame champion Shannon has volunteered to be the prey, after competing successfully 22 times as the hunter. Although Shannon is reputed to be unbeatable, the odds are slightly against him, maybe because luck eventually runs out for everyone, even for one of the game's all-time greats. Each player is allowed to carry 1 firearm and 2 other weapons of his own choice. Anyone found with additional weapons is automatically disqualified. As you know, the prey has the option of surrendering if he's still undiscovered after the first 6 hours. But if he chooses to do so, he is penalized by the loss of points in the championship standings and is not eligible for start money. Ron Shannon has never surrendered. So tonight's event promises to be an epic encounter, and one that will keep us all glued to our screens well into the AM of tomorrow. And now, an important question. Do you know the favorite food of Endgame champions? It's Life Plus, the high-protein energy tablet that tones up your body fibers and maintains your sexual prowess. Be a man among men. Buy Life Plus.
Right. So, I mean,
I don't know why,
if you
but
didn't know better,
at first it made me think of Rollerball.
well, okay, so yes, there is a lot of that in terms of how it looks.
Yeah.
But the description, hunters, prey, certain amount of time, it's basically, to me, it's Running Man.
When did
so
the
maybe somebody read the book.
Running Man book come out though?
It was 70s. So that's what I think it is. I think somebody took and in the Running Man book, it is much more like this, where it's just in a city. It's not quite as glammed up.
Running Man was published in 1982.
Right, but watching it now, you'd say, "Oh, this was ripping off the Running Man movie," because most people don't know it was a story.
The story was written in 1982.
Yeah, but most people don't know that. Most people are really not aware because it was written under the Bachman name, not with Stephen King. Now, of course, but most people don't know that the Running Man is Stephen King. Was ever Stephen King's story? They think it's an Arnold Schwarzenegger story. That's what they think of, is Schwarzenegger.
It is different,
but the
though.
setup, it is. Yeah, it is. So basically, you get this setup, and honestly, the end game, the Running Man portion, ends at about 30 minutes. Then it becomes a completely different movie. But the opening, there's been a nuclear attack, very popular for this period of time. So we see a nuclear bomb go off, then we get this opening. The Life Plus thing kept popping up, but then it just vanishes. So I don't know if that was just a general comment on, people being sold things as part of game shows or what, because it just vanishes. It never became a plot point. But they repeat it a whole bunch of times while the Endgame thing is happening. But Endgame itself goes away until the very end of the film. So we see all these stormtroopers who literally look like Nazis, all black leather, German helmets. They even are called like the Secret Society. So they have SS on their helmets. They have gas masks. They're going around. And the nuclear war has made some people into mutants. Now,
I saw that there's like a blue greenish looking guy in one of the posters.
Okay. So here's how the mutants work.
Okay.
Now, it's important to point out that movies of this flavor are not overly concerned with logic or narrative cohesion. You're not watching this movie for its story. You're watching it to see what parts they've put into the blender and attempted to emulate, and how well or badly, ideally badly, they've emulated them. And so the mutants come in 3 variations. 1, they just look like people, and they have superpowers. Those tend to be the people who are nice looking. For example, one of our main characters is a very nice looking woman who is psychic and has absolutely no physical alterations whatsoever. So her mutation, luckily, was all internal, nothing external. Sexy. Yeah. So there's sexy mutants. Now, don't get me wrong, the government hates all mutants and is using Endgame as a cover to go out and exterminate them. But the mutants we first see all look like they are, what's his face? I don't remember his name after he gets dropped into the acid in RoboCop. The rest of them look like that, and they're cannibals. And they're monstrous, and they're hunched over, like, and shit like that. So those are what I would call the ugly mutants. And then there are the weird Land of the Lost mutants who have actually devolved and look like Planet of the Apes, except with worse makeup. The guy you saw is basically like a fish man. So they become animalistic, and they have their own kind of gangs out in places. So they kind of rule their own little patches of areas of the planet, wherever they are. So that's your 3 variations of mutants. And everybody else is just normal humans that, I guess, live under this totalitarian government or whatever they are. They're never specific, but they're all just basically shock troopers and Nazis running around. And so the first, 20-something minutes is Endgame. And the main guy is Ron Shannon, who is all in leather, looks a lot like he's supposed to be a Mad Max character. He has a pistol and a whip and a knife. So that's his gun and 2 weapons. Pistol, knife, whip.
Sorry.
That's his stuff.
Pistol, whip. I was like, Indiana Jones?
Basically, yes. And then the 3 hunters, one of them looks like he could have been in the Humongous' gang, or Conan the Barbarian character. Very, very much looks like a gladiator type of thing, top to bottom. The second hunter is the most confusing because from the waist up, he looks like a Mad Max character. From the waist down, he looks like an astronaut. He's wearing like white pants with silver boots. He looks like a David Bowie character almost. I don't know how else to describe this guy. The first guy is all brute strength. The second hunter is a martial arts expert. And then the third hunter is a veteran of these types of films, an actor named George Eastman, who shows up everywhere in movies like this. He's great, and he's playing Karnak, and he doesn't have any special abilities, but he's Shannon's childhood friend, who is now his main antagonist or rival in Endgame. And so they grew up together, and now they basically hunt each other. And this will become a thing that goes throughout the entire movie. So, as I said, the beginning is Endgame. So we're seeing people watching it Running Man style. The people all watching it look like they're, mid-'80s Adamant characters with a lot of makeup, Pris-looking types.
It's on TV, right?
It's on TV.
But it's a post-apocalyptic kind of future, right?
Yes.
Okay, so there's TV in the post-apocalypse.
Yeah, there's cameras everywhere, Running Man style, and so everything is filmed. Okay. And so he's going through, and he kills the first 2 hunters, and then Karnak, his childhood friend, corners him. And it just so happens that when he corners him, we've been seeing this really nice-looking woman who's just been watching a lot in the background. And she psychically starts to talk to him to say, hey, you're trapped, but I can help you out of this if you do me a favor. And this is their psychic conversation as he's kind of hiding and Karnak is closing in on him.
Kurt is moving towards you now. He has death in his mind. You're dead, even though you're his friend.
That's the way the game's played. Are you a mutant?
Yes. Brain mutation developed my telepathic power. Some of us can use telethink to contact others.
Why contact me?
I have to leave the city with a group of companions by tomorrow, and we need a guide. We pay very well.
Why me, and not someone else?
Because you know what lies beyond the city limits. And you could protect us.
The penalty for harboring a mutant is 2 to 4 years hard labor and confiscation of private property.
If I don't help you, you're going to lose the game. You're cornered like a rat.
What can you do?
Be your eyes. When I say now, he'll be 10 feet below you at 12 o'clock. And you better aim straight. If you miss, we'll have no guide.
Hope you can see straight. I'm ready.
As she said, she basically manages to give him the drop on Karnak, but he spares Karnak and basically just leaves, which I guess he's allowed to do. So he doesn't have to kill them, and he just then runs off. The game is still going on, so it doesn't end, but he agrees to take them out of the city. For what reason is never made clear. It might just be that they want to get away from where they're going to be killed, I guess, because when we finally see them get to safety, spoiler alert, I guess, they just get into a helicopter and fly away. But I never really figured out
the spoiler on a movie from 1980.
Yeah.
What was it?
Yeah, 3, and a movie like this where spoiling things is almost not possible. But so he's like, all right, I can do it, but I'm going to need some help because it's a long way from here to where you want to go. So then he goes and he finds an old friend of his, which I don't remember what the guy's name was. We'll call him Scarred Eye Patch because he's got a big scar on his face and he's missing an eye and he's got an eye patch. And Scar Eye Patch is running some kind of martial arts school / boxing club. And there's a guy there. So he's like, hey, I need some people. And he's like, all right, well, I can help you. And this guy's a martial arts expert. I think he's the best one I've got. And he's like, what do you mean you think? And he says, well, he doesn't talk and he won't do anything but train on his own. And he's like, well, then how do you know he's any good? And he's like, I don't know. I can't get him to do anything. He's like, well, maybe
this is a B movie, man. It's what it is.
Right. So he says, well, maybe. So Mad Max Light says, well, maybe if you have somebody attack him, he'll defend himself. And the eye patch guy's like, oh yeah, good idea. Hey, you attack him. And so the guy, some random student goes and attacks him, and the ninja guy flips him over and then like smashes his thorax in and kills him. And so he's like, all right, you're on the team. And so then he's like, all right, there's another guy who's a big, brutish guy, basically a Andre the Giant type. And he's like, he's out here in this particular area that's run by gangs. He's like, he's working for this buffoon. Why don't you go out and give him an offer and he'll work for you? Because, I mean, these guys aren't going anywhere and you can offer some real money. Now, I only clipped this because I don't know who they got to dub the leader of this gang, but you got to hear it. I'm just going to play this little bit here. It's great. So this is him showing up and the gang coming out. And remember, the guy he wants isn't the leader. He's basically the muscle for this gang. What you're going to hear first is the leader. I'll put that in quotes. Air quotes, I guess. Here we go.
Stop there, you son of a bitch!
Which one of you is Kovacs?
What do you care? I make the rules on this square of turf.
I'm Kovacs. What do you want?
I'm the one you talk to. Get it?
Bull says you're as strong as an ox. So what are you doing taking your orders from that idiot?
Who you calling an idiot? I'll crush your head with my bare hands.
The next step you take will be your last.
You...
I warned you. I got a job for you. The risk's high, but so is the reward. I'd like an answer now.
So, yeah, that voice is great. I don't know who that guy is.
Two things. One thing, the main guy is way too relaxed to be in this movie.
I know.
He talks like he's in a 70s like heist movie.
This is one of the things that makes these Italian films so wonderful.
He's so
the dubbing
chill.
is just,
hey,
it's great.
How you doing?
Hey.
I'm here to
How you
find
doing?
out if you want to go on a post-apocalyptic romp with me.
Especially when you contrast it with...
Stop there, you son of a bitch!
Yeah, and that guy...
Yeah, I mean, you know, come on. That's great.
That guy sounded like a cartoon character from a bad anime.
And if you look at that guy, you can tell that is not. It doesn't match at all.
Oh,
that guy
man.
looks like Nick Frost
That
from
guy,
Hot Fuzz.
I know, but this guy, that voice sounds like a weasel. It's like Weasley.
Oh,
What a Weasley voice for this guy.
Yes. So then after he gets the muscle, then he goes and he finds basically the demolition expert. And so he gets his team together. So he's got the martial arts expert, the muscle, the demolition expert. And he's on his way
the
to...
80s movie. Go on.
Oh, no. It is the total just 80s thing. So he goes to meet up with the girl with the team. The government stops him. They're about to arrest him, at which point his old buddy, Karnak, comes out of nowhere and, says the game's not over and just like shoots the guy that's pursuing him and then vanishes. And so he's like, okay. And so he keeps going and gets the...
Wait, so Karnak saves him.
Yeah.
And says,
well,
I'll
okay,
get you later, motherfucker.
Yeah. He's like, he's kind of watching over him. And I wasn't sure what they were going to do with that for a while. I thought it was going to be the kind of classic thing where he's like, well, he's going to become like the last team member when shit gets really bad. But no,
nobody kills you but me. Is that
well, that's what they're doing is eventually you find out that no, he just wants to keep going back and forth until one of them kills the other. That's the idea. And Shannon will never kill him. So basically Karnak is just going to keep doing this until he kills Shannon. That's the idea. And then I guess he would become the prey. I don't really know. They don't get into it, but that's the only thing that makes any sense. But that's going to disappear for a while, and Karnak's going to go away for a bit. So the middle of the movie is they collect everybody. So now there's a kid, and they're really concerned about getting this kid to get out along. There's like, I want to say there's 10 of them total. The woman, the kid, this guy who's the professor, who they talk about as if he's 80 when he's actually like 32. They didn't even try to make him look old. But they call him the professor, and they talk about him like he's some kind of, aged, wise man. And like I said, it's crazy.
Okay.
So they've got a bus where Eye Patch McBullseye is in the top with a giant gun. Karnak's on a motorcycle.
Oh, yeah.
Ninja Man is on a motorcycle.
Very Mad Max now.
Yes. And then Shannon is driving a car, which I couldn't figure out what the hell the thing on the front of it was for a long time. It's a flamethrower, which actually, I mean, this is the 80s. This isn't CG. That thing was probably so dangerous to drive, I can't imagine, because it's right over the motor. And man, when it fires, it does not look safe. But whatever. That is the 80s. It's Italian. Who cares? So they're driving around and, they encounter different dangers here and there. They come to this little town and a bunch of... Now, this is actually the one interesting segment of the movie where I'm like, oh, this is a cool idea. And they did it fairly well. They come into this town and they see a guy come out because the town is kind of blockaded. So they stop. And a guy comes out and he's dressed all in black, including his face is covered. And he comes out and he's talking to them. He's like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Oh, we're just passing through." And he's talking to him. And then you see that the hood kind of falls back, and he's blind. He can't see. And like Shannon's putting his arms in front of him, and he, so they could question. He's like, and the guy's like, "Well, do you have anything of value that you would trade for passage?" And they're just trying to buy time. And then suddenly all these guys, like 50 guys, come out of the buildings, all in black with black cloaks. And basically Shannon's like, okay, attack. And they start attacking because they think that's going to be easy because they're blind. But they're fighting back really well. Like they seem to know where they are. They're shooting at them. They're not acting like they can't see. And at first, Shannon thinks that he can't figure out what's going on. And then the psychic lady says, they've got somebody like me hooked up in their tower. They've got him in, they basically are torturing him.
They've got a network.
But he's their psychic eyes. You have to stop him to stop them from seeing you. So they do manage to kill the demolitions expert before they get out. But he finds the guy, and he's like bound up, and he's obviously been beaten and tortured and all this stuff. And so, there's a bunch of guys in front of him. And I'm like, okay, how's he going to free the guy without killing this guy? And instead of freeing him, he takes an axe out of his back pocket and like just kills the blind guy and just fucking puts the axe right in his head. And suddenly all the blind guys just stop. And they're like, shit, we can't see. And they just instantly, they don't surrender, but they can't see anything. So then they just kind of go, all right. And they just drive around him and leave. And that's it. But it's in that part is actually a neat idea that if this movie was better made, would probably be a really interesting sequence. It's not. I mean, this movie's low budget is so evident. The inability of the fight choreographers is so clear that you can't even really overlook it. But in the hands of somebody who was more competent, that scene right there would be the showstopper scene of the whole movie. Like that whole thing where you had the blind guys fighting psychically, that could be done so well and so interestingly because, again, when they first think they're blind, they're very overconfident, understandably, because the blind guys don't give away that they have this ability right away. They wait until they get resistance before it all becomes clear. And plus, they have a lot of numbers that at first you don't know about because when the one guy comes out, you think there's only a couple of them, and then they all just start flooding out. You know, kind of like in the second Matrix movie where all the Smiths start showing up. That's these guys. So... And then the fight scenes, all that stuff happens. And then the thing where once the psychic guy's dead, they don't surrender. They're like swinging their swords at the air like they just can't do anything because they've been relying on this guy for so long to do this racket that they really don't know how to function now without him.
They're actually blind, yeah.
Yes, it's an interesting element. And it's even in a movie that is, I don't want to say it's inept, but as jankily constructed as this one, it's a fascinating piece of it that is the standout thing. That's like the neatest part of the whole movie. So they get away, and so they go and they stop at a lake, this polluted lake, where they're just resting, and Shannon's wandering around, and Karnak's kind of following them, and he keeps seeing them. And then he happens to come around, and he's like, where's the woman, and where's the kid? And he comes around, and he sees the woman, and this is very Empire Strikes Back, where the woman's kneeling down, and the kid is levitating a rock. And Shannon's like, whoa, what's all this? So this is his dialogue with the woman about what the kid's magical powers are and why, because Shannon's immediately like, wait a minute, a kid with psychic and telekinetic powers, this might not be a great thing to have with us if you're trying to escape. But she immediately comes back and says, no, I'm psychically controlling him. But here's their dialogue on it.
How did you do that? Pretty good trick.
Oh, Shannon, I didn't realize you were watching. I don't know how he does it, but he does it. He's the only one of us who can do things like that. What you just saw is nothing. His mind is amazingly powerful, but he's still much too young to control it. I've been teaching him slowly.
He could give us away without even knowing it.
No way. I keep his mind in a state of constant hypnosis. As if he were dozing. No outside emotion can reach him. Don't be afraid.
I'm not afraid. But I'm beginning to understand why they want to kill all of you.
We've always been persecuted. You know, this lake was alive once. People used to come here on holidays. There was windsurfing, sailboats, swimming, and kids everywhere laughing and playing. Green fields coming down to the shoreline. Wildflowers you could pick in armfuls.
How do you know that?
The professor has shown us his memories. As a kid, he used to spend his summers up here. Even though all the books and video information on ecology have been destroyed, they haven't yet found a way to destroy old people's memories. Scientists have access to that youth-prolonging drug the presidents used to take. That's why he looks so young. Through his mind, the professor has shown us what life was like then.
Well, how was it?
I've told you. There were fish in the lake. There was hope. Now there's only putrid, stagnant water.
Go and rest now.
So this is our Luke Skywalker moment where the kid is levitating the rock and, apparently he's kept in a state of hypnosis, like even though he never looks like he's tired at all, but okay, she's doing something to him and she's teaching him even though no one else has ever done this, but apparently she's just that good a teacher. So whatever, so this is the magic kid. And obviously they're going to, his psychic power will come into play later. That's why she makes a big point of, no. Nobody else can talk to him, just me. So, he's not a threat to anybody, which, later he's going to save their ass. So they keep going. They get to this town, and this town, much like the Fury Road bait trap, is a trap where there's a naked woman strung up, And when they go to help her, suddenly the whole town attacks them. And then all these mutants, including the blue guy you saw, these are all the, devolved people show up on motorcycles. And there's all these ape men and gill people. And another big giant fight breaks out, which is fine enough. It's not a bad scene, but again, it's not a great one. Let's see, who dies in this one? The ninja guy dies, and Karnak, the giant, Andrew the Giant also dies. So basically at this point, and the professor gets killed. So now it's just down to Shannon, who's like, and Eye Patch Bullseye guy is still around. But he has no real abilities past being able to shoot a gun. And then the woman gets abducted. They take the Gill man takes her in the fight. And Shannon's like, shit, I'm screwed. At which point Karnak shows up and says, I'll help you, let's go. And so they're going, and they infiltrate the blue Gillman's lair or whatever, and they manage to get the woman out. And the woman says, hey, that guy, even though he's your friend, he's going to kill you. He's only out to try to get to the money that we're going to get for you. And he's like, well, whatever, I'll take what help I can get. But they managed to break her out. And so Karnak then gets stuck. And because she told him that he didn't care about them anyway, he's like, well, I guess he's on his own, and they leave. And then after they get clear of this mutant camp, he says, well, did Karnak get killed? And she says, no, he's not dead. He's just trapped. So they keep going. So it's basically now it's Shannon, the refugees, and Eye Patch guy. And they manage to get to the rendezvous point, and there's a helicopter waiting there. At which point the military shows up. They kill Eye Patch, and they basically get all the people out, and they put a gun to Shannon's head. They're like, we're going to kill you. And so Shannon reaches out psychically to the woman and says, you have to let me talk to the kid. And she's like, no, it's too dangerous. He's like, I trust him. He'll be able to help us, even though in the last dialogue he said, I know why they want to kill you, or something like that. But he reaches out to the kid and he's like, Tommy, you got to help us. And Tommy manages to manifest a super tornado, and he's levitating trucks and throwing them into the stormtroopers. He makes the general turn the gun on himself. He just unleashes, he's like the fucking Phoenix, man. It's just all going to hell. And manages to wipe everybody out and save all their asses. So the helicopter then shows up, comes back. These two guys in white suits come out with a case of money and says, here's your payment. And she says, do you want to come with us? He's like, no, this is where I belong. I was only doing it for the money. And so they all get on the helicopter and they fly away, at which point Karnak shows up and says, hey, he's like, so we're going to finish this? And he's like, yeah, let's finish it. And the two of them run at each other, scream, and then there's a freeze frame over the box of money and credits. And that's I don't know what time it's supposed to be, so I guess Endgame's still going or something. And that's where the movie ends. So, listen, it's junk, but...
Oh, it sounds like fun junk, though.
It's very fun. I was delighted by it. Like, this is the kind of basic Italian ripoff film where if you like those movies, you'll like this. Because it's the formula from top to bottom. Like I said, George Eastman is one of these guys who's just a reliable B-movie guy who shows up. He's got like a permanent smirk on his face, which is great. He's played good guys, bad guys, guys like this in between. So like he's the perfect type for the Karnak character. Where honestly, if they made a sequel to this, which I don't think they did, I'd watch it if the two of them were in it. Like, if it just continued that, I would probably watch it. I don't think there was ever a sequel to this. Oh, I keep getting Avengers Endgame. No, it's not Avengers Endgame. It's Endgame Bronx Lotta Finale. Yeah. Let's see. Did they ever make a sequel? I seriously doubt they ever did. I mean, I can't imagine this movie made $2. No.
Was it called Les Nouveaux Barbares?
No, that's the New Barbarians. That's a different movie.
Okay.
I think, did Joe D'Amato do that? The director, did he do that movie as well? Let's see. You're talking about, that's Warriors of the Wasteland. It is New Barbarians, Warriors of the Wasteland. Yes, that one too, which I think I reviewed. I'm pretty sure I reviewed that one because Fred Williamson is in it.
Yeah.
And George Eastman is in it.
Yeah, that's why I saw it, yeah.
No, different director. That was Enzo Castellari, who also did a lot of these movies. But if you liked that movie, you would like this movie. Was this the movie that had the weird No, this is a different one. Yeah, this is the Fred Williamson one. This is not the one with the TV people. That's a different movie. Oh, boy. Yeah, but, I mean, they're all the same. That's the thing, is they're all the same movies. But that's not bad. That's actually great. These are the movies that would have been on Cinemax or the Movie Channel. So HBO and Showtime would have had Mad Max, and Cinemax would have had Warriors of the Wasteland or Endgame. It would have been the low-end version of these movies, or as part of a marathon, like a post-apocalyptic marathon. It's not bad. It's you just end up kind of smiling at it because it's like when a 4-year-old tries to draw a diorama for you of dinosaurs, and the dinosaurs have 3 arms and 10 eyes.
Yeah. But
they look like dinosaurs. They're green. They have tails. You're like, yeah, okay. It's kind of a dinosaur. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, it's a walking lizard. Sure. Ineptly done. But, it's fine. So it's like that. And you're either going to like that or you're not. I was very, very delighted by it. It's also free to watch. I watched it on Tubi. I think it's on every friggin' free service there is because, I mean, you couldn't realistically charge anybody for this. Not really. Not with any seriousness. Nobody's going to pay anything for this. But it's a movie of its time and type. And so you probably already know if you like it. I had a great time with it. It looks very good. I mean, this must have been remastered. I would assume it's probably available in either a Blu-ray or a 4K because it looked really good. That is one thing. When there was a period in probably the early 2000s where a lot of people were shooting it might have even been mid-2000s, were shooting on digital video because it was the new thing.
Yeah.
And it looks like shit because you can't do anything to it. It just looks terrible and there is no fixing it. Whereas movies like this, they were presented very badly because they were often on VHS, which was an inferior format, but they were shot on film. And so you can make them look really good. This movie looks better than some movies from the early 2000s do. I mean, it doesn't work as well because, again, the narrative is laughable, if it even really exists. It is a rip-off pastiche over and over and over, but it looks exceptionally good. Now, the downside of that is the makeup, such as it is. Boy, can you see the seams. Oh, you sure can. And when a stunt double is clearly standing in or they're setting a dummy on fire, there will be no mystery that a VHS on a bad old television would cover up where you might think that it was actually a person or not the stunt double. That stuff is all erased, so you will see the seams of the film, but it also looks really good. I mean, it looks better than until very recently any version of The Keep by Michael Mann you could watch legally. Fortunately, they've now got a 4K of that out, which I did buy from Vinegar Syndrome, so go pick that up if you haven't, because it looks amazing. But until that happened at the very beginning of this year, the best versions of The Keep you could see looked like absolute and sound like shit. They still sound like shit. They cannot fix the audio.
VHS copies, practically.
Oh, yeah, rips. Just VHS rips to DVD. Whereas this movie, like you could see all the pores in their faces. They really, whoever restored this, they did a great job. So that, I think, for some people, they want it to look like shit. That makes it more charming to them. Yeah. I'm the opposite. I like seeing movies like this in their best possible version because, to me, there's an anachronistic fun to the fact that this thing looks stellar and operates like it's barely held together with fishing wire and a couple of pieces of Bazooka Joe gum that were chewed for like 3 weeks. And that's the only reason this thing can even shamble to an hour and 36 minutes, which is astonishing because most movies like this don't even make 90 minutes. And it doesn't feel like it. It moves fairly well, much like the movies it was imitating. It's smart enough to just keep moving around. It doesn't stop. They're not just stuck in one place. They're not wandering around a quarry, which is typical for these movies when they want to simulate, the wasteland.
It's basically, it's like a Western. They know how to make this.
Yes.
It's like a Western.
Yes.
That they dress
well,
up
and
in
Italians
sci-fi.
Did good Westerns.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it functions just well enough so that you're never bored and coupled with the fact that it is amusing to try to spot the things they ripped off.
Yeah.
Which I always like. That to me is actually half the fun is, okay, what film or specific person are they ripping off? And that's, there's so many in here that you can see very clearly.
Yeah.
Yes, they made the main guy look exactly like Mad Max. He is leather bound top to bottom. The whip, he does use it because I thought he was just going to, for a while, he was just carrying it. And I went, okay, they just wanted to give him a third weapon and he's never going to use it. But he does use it, which I like. He uses it to actually, disarm people. And he doesn't Indiana Jones swing off it, but he does use it as a long range weapon.
Yeah.
When he doesn't want to kill the guy or whoever. So, like I said, I like it a lot. You can watch it for free. The version on Tubi looks fantastic. The music is, at times, sounds much like John Carpenter's music. It's actually very simplistic but well done. But also, the rest of the time, it's the complete wrong music for the scene.
Oh,
it's bafflingly
that's
out of place.
Kind of typical of those movies, though, isn't it?
Well, what I assume that means is they didn't want to spend money to hire anybody, and they reused movie music they had from another film that was available to the studio.
Yeah.
That's probably what they did. So, like I said, I enjoyed it very much. I can't pretend it's some kind of hidden gem. It is.
But it was fun.
It is for the crowd that likes these movies. This is one. I don't know. I don't remember ever even hearing of it.
If you're into B movies, then you know you're going to like it or not like it. I mean.
Yes. And as you said, this has one of the classic deceptive cover artworks. Nothing in this movie, well, I shouldn't say nothing. Very little in this movie looks anything like that cover art. And especially not the main character looks nothing like that cover art. So that's another thing is the artwork promises one thing. Well, you get a different version
also of them. Indicative of those movies.
It is. Yeah. I mean, look, I have a whole book of VHS artwork like that. Yeah. So, I'm looking at that poster right now. You never see a bridge. The main character, that looks like a He-Man character. I don't know what's in the net he's stepping on. That axe he's holding never appears. The dune buggy with gunfire never appears. It looks nothing like his car. There are no boots with blades. There is no helmet with spikes. There is not anybody who's in that good of shape. Nothing. Nothing of this looks accurate. There is another cover that is far more, even though it's still not quite, but it's more accurate, which has the main character on the cover, and he appears to be fighting a android, which is not accurate at all, but it's still closer than the other one. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It can be watched for free. You will see bad makeup. You will hear bad dubbing. You will have a great time. That's all I can tell you. So, Endgame, 1983. And I didn't want to review anything else after that because that was such a delight. Like you said, I wanted to end on something fun, and that's fun. So, yeah, Endgame is a very good time. So, yeah, I will. I'll leave it at that. So, on that note, Happy New Year because this is our first 2025 show, and you know what? Starting off your year with Endgame, not the worst idea. On that note, we'll talk to you again next week. Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes, browse through our back catalog, or to find links to support the show. Follow @OzoneNightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 280 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. The opening theme for the show is provided by Heartbeat Hero. The closing theme is provided by Ogre. Please visit and support these artists using the links in the show notes for each episode.